All right. We are back for podcast number 12 with Jowad Mahmoudi. Did I say that correctly?
Perfectly.
Oh, thank you.
First time.
Okay, so Jawad right here is a kickboxer, a Muay Thai fighter. He is a coach over at Absolute Mixed Martial Arts here in Shanghai. And we just got done with a sparring session. We're going to show you some of that and comment on it. And I'm just going to say it straight up. This dude is fantastic. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
My pleasure, Ramsey. Really, it's really a true honor and a pleasure to be with you on this podcast. Like, it was really great to spar with you too. Like, I had a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I got to say it is super educational sparring with you. I've sparred with so many people. We were talking a little bit about this before. Just hundreds and hundreds of people over the years. And you know, it's always a learning experience sparring, but man, it was an absolute just puzzle trying to figure out the patterns and such sparring with you. And Jawad, you showed me some of your notebooks, which is really interesting after sparring. This guy, he keeps notebooks of like everything he does, techniques and whatnot, and it looked almost like musical annotation, which was super interesting. Because watching you move around in the ring, it was like, you know, there's rhythm and timing and patterns, and I could see like the music of it in the movement, and very much the same thing in your notebooks. Could you tell us a little bit about why you write everything down?
Actually, that's one thing that I copied from my father. Like, he used to have like some book full of like techniques and like the class, everything. And I remember like I was looking at this book like from time to time to see how he was like building the class, the technique. And then like when I just moved in China, I started to coach. Like I started to copy that, so I could like keep like an eye of like on what I was teaching. So I could really like structure the class so my students could learn, and not like only teaching a piece of this, a piece of that, but really like doing a work on the basics from really from scratch, like starting from nothing and building like those techniques and making like repeat again and again. And the book is really helping to structure that.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly observing how you wrote that down. I mean, you had it down almost to a science, like you were studying your own technique. And so something I often say to my students is the most important fighter to study is yourself. The most important fighter to do film studies on is yourself. But man, you've taken it to the next level.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you just say. Like when you study yourself, like you can see what are your strong points, your weakness, and like you can like gradually like pass this little like plateau that sometimes you can hit when it comes to technique or anything. And I guess you can apply that to like grappling and striking. I do this for jiu-jitsu too, because like yeah, I'm all about striking, but since I start like jiu-jitsu, I started jiu-jitsu like in China. I'm still a white belt, but like I try to find where are my flows, where are like my strong point, and that's helping a lot, really really a lot. Like after every training.
So I've got a question for you. Since this is a question that so many of my subscribers on YouTube ask me, they often say, should I start my mixed martial arts training in striking or grappling? And I usually tell them do both at the same time, because that's what MMA is. But a lot of them have this concern, like, should I master one and then make the transition to the other? And you know, you being a high-level kickboxer, making the transition to jiu-jitsu as a white belt, as a beginner, what's that like for you right now?
I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty easy. Like I'm kind of dominating white belts because I have like I'm pretty flexible, like really flexible, so I can escape like in a lot of hole. In white belt, we don't have like that much techniques, since like it's mostly like you know, it's a bit awkward. So basically it's pretty easy to come from like high level striking to grappling when you understand body motion, when you know how to move your body, and when you can move your body because of flexibility. Like you learn faster, than that a guy who just come out of the blue. That's true. But for example, if I had like a recommendation for me would be like first getting like strong in grappling before striking, or like in the same time, but I would put more axis on grappling for the simple reason that there is so many techniques in grappling. This is so technical compared to striking, even though like striking is like extremely technical, but like when you compare to grappling is like, it's just like thousands of techniques.
Yeah.
Everyone can throw a punch, even if it's a bad punch. Like for a human being, this is like natural to fight using, for example, punches. It's not natural to grapple. So that's why you need to learn that first.
That makes a lot of sense. And just going back to the music analogy of you know, how when I saw your notebook, it reminded me so much of musical annotation with the striking. Yeah, it's not even in my perspective that grappling is more complex than striking. It's just it has so many more notes to play with. So annotating it, if we were to do the same thing, would just branch out into these crazy chains.
Gigantic.
But at the same time, if I were to give you a piece of advice, it would be something I learned from listening to Marcelo Garcia, one of the greatest grapplers ever, which is you don't need a million techniques. You need a good plan A and a good plan B that complement each other. Now, you need to understand everything, but focus on simple game plans.
Totally.
But yeah, I hear you. I mean, coming from a striking background myself, making that transition to grappling was super awkward. And I think it reminded me a lot of dancing, making the transition from classical ballet to modern dance. And a lot of people out there may be thinking, what? Why is he talking about dance? Because, and here's why, both of them share the same type of movement qualities. A resistant movement quality with the stand-up game or classical ballet where you were trying to lift yourself, elevate, trying to resist gravity, essentially. Versus the indulgent movement quality that you'll see in grappling arts or also modern dance, where you give in to gravity, where you use the gravity, where you indulge into it. So strikers just naturally move resistantly, or we train to move in a very resistant way, so we become very resistant, literally resistant, to the ground game. Yeah. And man, it took me the longest time to get comfortable on the ground.
That's why breakdancers are usually, when like there is people who come from breakdance or this kind of dance, and they go to grappling, usually like they become extremely strong, extremely fast.
Oh yeah.
Because like they get used to all this like movement, all this transition, like body movement on the ground. This is something they're used to, and that's true that the best like example you can give is like ballet. Like my father always told me that a ballet dancer, like classical dancer, if they learn how to strike, they can become extremely strong because of this grace, the power in the legs, the way that they know how to stand up, how to twist the body. Like that's why it's really easy to teach a dancer how to fight, mostly in striking when it comes to Muay Thai.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned like being a white belt compared to other white belts, because somebody who's already an athlete, somebody who already knows how to move, it's not really the same thing as somebody who gets up off the couch having never done a sport. The most athletic movement is just eating potato chips or watching TV or whatever. It's a whole different thing, because you got to teach those guys how to move, and you've got to teach them jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Whereas you take somebody who already knows how to move, a combat sports athlete, a dancer, a break dancer, something like that. Again, they already know how to live in their body. It's a massive difference there.
Exactly. They know their body. Like I think, even if you know how to move, the thing is, do you know your body? Like, do you know how far you can stretch your joint, for example? How far you can like push your body? Athletes mostly know their body perfectly because this is what they used to live. They use their body every day. But random people are a bit more like they don't know their body that much actually. They don't know how much they can push. They don't know a lot of things about their own body that they need to learn through martial arts. So yeah, that's true. It's really easier to come from a background where like you already know about your body and then go to grappling. And another thing is like, for example, I come from striking, and when I do grappling, I feel really like confident because I don't get struck. Like no one is punching me in the face. I don't get kicked. So when I grapple, I just relax. Like I'm like, it's fine.
Man, that makes such a big difference. If you've done a striking art before,
difference.
Man, have you ever done a jiu-jitsu tournament?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I won.
Okay.
I won. I was pretty happy with that.
Now, were you nervous at all going into the tournament?
No, it's just
Okay.
it's just like a walk in the park because
Yeah.
I'm white belt, so it's not like I see that start like when you get purple, you can
Yeah.
see that there is a lot of like competition. Like that's really hard.
Yeah.
Starting purple, I guess. Even blue, it's okay.
But going back to that tournament, did you look around at the other white belts? Like, did you see the nervousness that they were carrying around with them?
There is a lot of guys who are like extremely tense, like extremely tense. When, like they move left, they move right, they stretch or they warm up like for hours, and mostly they come on the mat and they're already like half dead.
Yeah, it's crazy how much they'll tense up. But again, if you fought before, whether it's boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, MMA, and then you do grappling, it's like a grappling tournament is, for me, it just feels like it's a training exercise at the gym.
Yeah.
You know, it's no big deal.
It's a nice moment. Like if you end up in a really bad situation, you just tap. Like in boxing, in striking mostly, you cannot tap. You're inside the ring or you're inside the cage, and you have to fight.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as like taking one punch in the face and turning my back and be like, okay, I stop.
Oh
That
man,
doesn't
it's
exist.
the polar opposite of self-defense. You look at any ring sport or a cage fight, you are literally confined into a very specific area. There's no exit.
Totally.
There's no door. In a cage, you're literally locked inside. And yeah, you got to go toward the danger. You must be the danger in that fight.
Exactly. You have to go toward the danger and in self-defense, like just like run away from the danger. Like that's why I have a lot of problem with like self-defense.
Yeah, you're really outspoken about the self-defense industry, which I love because so am I. Let's talk about that for a bit. The garbage in the self-defense industry right now.
There is a lot to talk about, like self-defense, the self-defense industry, unfortunately. Like I think the major thing with self-defense is like they literally play on like the fears of people. They just like manipulated like the fear of people to make profit out of it, making them believe that they will be safe using like this system or that system. I usually speak about Krav Maga because this is one of the biggest like self-defense.
Super popular.
Like super popular. And I'm just gonna take like the example of one self-defense instructor in Shanghai. So Serbian guy. I'm not gonna say any name. But like we just told to a student of mine who just went there, like, yeah, if you do Krav Maga and you apply Krav Maga, you can beat anyone. Even if he's 2 meter tall, if he's like MMA champion, Muay Thai champion.
That is a bold claim.
Like Krav Maga will like help you to defeat anyone and everyone in 3 techniques. And I was like,
oh man.
Well,
does Krav Maga involve firearms? Like having one and using one?
Yeah, if you have a gun, maybe, but
if not, that's a bold claim.
Otherwise, yeah, like I don't know if those people have ever, like in their life, been like in the presence of like a heavyweight fighter. Like for example, like I would not try this kind of technique on a guy who's like heavyweight, for example, because he would just kill me. So.
Oh man, it's
just putting the life of people who trust those people in danger, like in extreme danger. So. And
I don't think the average person really understands the context of what a fight is, unless they've been in one. I was doing some referee work last year. What was it? The Dragon Fighting Championships. It's a good show. They had some preliminary bouts, and I was watching this and thinking like, oh man, I wish I wasn't retired from fighting. I could get in there. I could beat that guy. And then the guys in my weight class came out. These guys were like monster sambo fighters from Russia. And I was just like, never mind, I'm glad I'm retired. I'm good on this side of the cage. Yep. Yeah.
Because mostly people like what they see about fighting is like what they see on TV with like people like Jason Statham or like fighting like in television. This is what they see about fighting, or like they see like fighting in the UFC like from outside. But like a street fight is nothing like that. There is no honor. There is no like street fight is just like pure violence. Like mostly people tend to speak a lot, but when they get in a street fight, they just freeze and they get their ass beaten. Like you can be like a world champion, and when you get into a street fight, like you just paralyzed by fear, or like you don't know how to react.
Everybody talks about fight or flight as the default responses, but they forget about submission. And submission, it's not just tapping out in jiu-jitsu, it's freezing, it's giving up essentially, it's not knowing what to do. And I think everybody goes through this to one extent or another when they become overwhelmed. I mean, it can happen in a combat sport. If somebody's throwing a big flurry you don't have an answer to, you might pause or freeze for a moment. But yeah, in a street fight.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like this is like the cold reality. There is nothing else than the cold reality in a street fight. This is not fair. There is no like such like technique that's gonna like save you from everything and anyone. That doesn't exist, unfortunately.
Yeah. So there's a big problem of thinking of techniques as magic tricks. Now, techniques are important. You should become as technical as you can as a martial artist, as a fighter. But what I've found is that fighters who are superior athletes and who are more aggressive than their opponents often have a huge advantage over more technical fighters. And I say technical.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Now, when you can marry those three things, aggression, technique, and athleticism, that's perfect. That's the complete fighter. But if you're missing any of those, man.
It's like a pyramidal. Like if you take one side of the pyramidal, or like it's like a chair, like you take one feet, you just crumble. Like one of the best example I can give is my friend Rafael Yodra, who was like WBC world champion, really like tough guy. He wasn't that technical, but he had like a huge mindset, like crazy mindset and a crazy stamina. And he was just beating like people like Marco Piqué. He beat like a lot of strong guy, just using like his like strong mind and pushing forward, and like going in. Like people who were like more technical than him, but had like less stamina, who wasn't training that hard. They were just like gas out after like 3-4 rounds. And in the end lost by like knockout or technical stoppage because of that. So yeah, if you don't work like the three parts of like the martial artist, like athleticism, like stamina, technical, and like aggression, like control aggression, because too much aggression is like the way to get countered. Like yeah, you're gonna end up like in a bad situation sooner or later.
Yeah. Man, speaking of athleticism, now I've noticed you sometimes post your workouts on like social media, like this is what I am going to do today, come join me type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's this list of a lot of it's like bodyweight, calisthenic type of movement. And another question I get a lot from my subscribers is, what is better, bodyweight, calisthenic movement, exercise, or weight training? And I usually tell them do both because there's value in both.
Totally.
But what would you say? What would you say is the value of bodyweight training specifically?
For me, I train bodyweight training because I want to master my own body. Like I want to be able to do like a perfect handstand push-up, like do plank. I'm a pretty big guy. Like I'm 190. I'm 90 kg. So that's pretty hard for me to control my body, and I really work toward this goal. This is my goal, being able to master my body. So by doing bodyweight workout and weighted calisthenics, like you can really understand how your body works, the pushing, the pulling motion, the pulling concept, and that's what I like. Plus, I really love calisthenics because it helped me to grow better, like as a human being when I was like 16. Yeah. And I was like battling against like depression. I was really skinny before.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, I was extremely skinny and I wasn't like confident at all. And doing calisthenics and joining a team of street workouts in France, Créteil, helped me a lot, like to overcome this sensation of not liking myself. Like I became way stronger, way more confident, and it helped me to grow as an athlete and as a human being. So that's why I do a lot of calisthenics. But weightlifting, like weight training, is perfect too. Like I do both. For example, in my workout, like I do calisthenics, weighted calisthenics, and a bit of weight training. So I don't have a lot of knowledge in weight lifting. So I stick to like basics, and or I ask to people who have more knowledge than me. But otherwise, yeah, mostly calisthenics. Plus with calisthenics, I feel that I can really work on the aspect of the aspect that you need to work as a fighter, for example, a striker, like with the explosive pull-ups, with like all loose holding. Like I work a lot on my grips now too, because I started Jiu-Jitsu. So yeah, calisthenics is my way to go. And since I like to train with people, I like to have this feeling of like pushing like each other toward the top as a team. That's why I invite people like from anywhere to join me in my training.
Oh, that's cool, man. Now I imagine, because right now you're a super fit guy, you're super flexible, great athlete, but it wasn't always that way, right?
No, not at all. Like I can, like, before I was really small. Like, to be honest, like now I'm one of the tallest guy. Like even in the street, like when you're 190, you're taller than something like 96 or 97% of humanity. So I'm a tall guy. But before I was like 16, I was like pretty small. I had big feet. I was skinny. So life wasn't really easy for me. Like I was fighting a lot because of that, because people was like trying to pick on me. So
oh man, I can relate to that. When you're the skinny dude, man, the bullies just single you out, like, let's go get him, he's tall but skinny.
But I was like, even if I was like small and skinny, I was like really like I was really tough. So I was fighting like every week. I was fighting. So yeah, it was pretty hard for me before. Like as a kid, I was pretty alone too. So like I had some tough moments, and then at 16 I started to change everything, the way I was living, the way I was like behaving in society, and I just like started to really trust myself, trust in my ability, and training a lot to achieve my goals. Like I remember one summer my family left for Thailand because my brother was training over there. My brother is a fighter too. He's a WMC world champion. Jowad Mahmoudi, really extremely strong. And they were like leaving for Thailand, and I just stay at home to work in my uncle's restaurant. And I was working like so much, like every day working. I was working from 10 to 2, and then from 8 to 5 in the morning, every day. And during the time I wasn't working, I was working out, running, lifting. So yes, when I started to be like 16, 17, I made a change in my life.
Yeah. So when did you start training in martial arts and Muay Thai, kickboxing specifically?
All my life, like as long as I can remember. Like my father is my father is my trainer, my uncle too. Like they have a gym in France, and they are doing this since like years and years. We are one of the first gym that opened in France.
Yeah.
And so as long as I can remember, I was training.
That's interesting. So I got to ask you, and before you answer, I'm going to give you some background on why I'm asking this question. So I have 2 daughters, and I've been training them, trying to train them, as long as they've been able to move, basically. And my older daughter, she's got a pretty mean arm bar for a little kid. But man, I got to say, it's difficult to train children. It really is. It takes a very special type of focus. So what was that like training as a child with your dad?
A lot of games.
Okay.
A lot of games, like for example, to keep my hands up, like moving and try to always like keep the hands up. So it was basically a lot of games. I was just like living in the gym mostly. Like I have picture of my dad, like for example, giving class with me like in the in the baby holder. So I just like grew up in the gym. So for me, looking at like training those guys like fighting, like it was just like natural for me. So I just wanted to copy them. So it was just about games till I got 10, 12, where like the training was a bit more like serious. So I think to teach kids, it's all about the way you teach them. It's like when they don't like vegetables or they don't like fish or this kind of stuff, you try to feed them with like tricks.
Okay.
With games.
Yeah, like here comes the airplane into your mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
That sort of
kind
thing.
Of stuff. Yeah, exactly. So it's just about like games, keeping them entertained. Otherwise, it's as a way they will learn because like they're being forced. And I don't think that's a good way.
Yeah, that's the last thing I want is my kids to resent fighting and be like, I hate fighting. I never want to train with my dad again. This sucks. I have bad memories of this.
That's what happened. Like mostly with like people who try to force their kids to train, but when it comes with games, that's different.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, I know so many people who were forced to play piano or violin as a child, and they never want to touch an instrument again, which is a shame because music is wonderful, but they resent it so much. It's almost like seeing a piano or a violin fills them with dread and anxiety.
That happened a lot with gymnastics for a lot of kids, unfortunately, because the training is so harsh and they get pushed so much that after when they reach like 15, 16, they're like, never again.
Yeah.
Like I got forced to play clarinet.
Play what?
Clarinet.
I don't even know what that is.
Clarinet is
clarinet.
Clarinet.
Clarinet, yeah.
I got forced to play clarinet.
I played the clarinet.
Yeah, me too. With like the
man,
bamboo,
I don't know how it is in France, but in the United States, growing up back in the 80s, playing the clarinet, if you were a guy, if you were a dude, people would beat you up for it. Like, look at that kid playing the clarinet. Let's get him. Teach him to play a woodwind instrument.
It was not like all my friends were playing like guitar and stuff like that, and I was stuck with my clarinet. It was pretty sad.
Oh man, it's almost. We have so much in common, man. We played the clarinet. I had no idea.
Exactly.
I got to look into this. I bet there are a lot of fighters out there who like played the clarinet or the oboe or the flute or something like that, and probably got beat up in school for it. Did you get picked on for it when you were a kid?
Not really. Like, actually, the last time I used my clarinet, it was to beat up a guy using the clarinet, and I got fired from like the music school because of that, because he made fun of my clarinet and me. So I was like, just took the clarinet. Like, the clarinet, you have to pop it like in, because it's in two pieces. So I just like took it the front side and just like bashed him with the clarinet.
Oh man.
Yeah, but otherwise like people was usually like were usually picking on me. Like to try to, for example, like rob me. Yeah. They tried to rob me a lot.
Okay.
They never succeed though, but like they tried a lot, because like look, this kid is like alone, or like because I was going back from college, like in France it's college.
Yeah.
Like when you're like something like 10 to or 11 to 17, no, to 16 or 15.
Oh yeah, it's the same thing in Spanish. They call it colegio for like a children's school basically.
And so since I was always going back home with my bicycle or bus, like at night, people try to pick on me, like mostly, but otherwise not really for my clarinet. It happened one time and never again.
Well, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So let's take a look at some of these sparring rounds. Now I got a small screen here. I'll put it up on the big screen for the folks at home to see.
Sorry, my bad.
Oh, it's okay. So gonna adjust this microphone. So I gotta preface this with I fought professionally in 5 different combat sports in MMA, Muay Thai, American kickboxing, Sanda, and K1 kickboxing. And throughout all those fights, I never once got kicked in the head. Now it's happened in sparring over the years, not very often. But I think in every single one of these rounds, you beat me in the head with a kick. Super awesome control, which I appreciate. Otherwise, I'd have concussions right now. But you head kicked me so many times, and I'm just so impressed with that. So let's take a look and do some commentary. So we did a bunch of rounds. I'm not sure how many.
I think we did something like 7 or 8 rounds.
Yeah, 7 or 8 rounds, 3 minutes each, and again, it's light contact sparring, and I put up a bunch of these light sparring sessions that I've had in the gym with some of my students on YouTube, and most of the time the feedback is pretty positive. But a lot of people will say things like, "Oh, why don't you put up some hard sparring? Enough of this wimpy sparring. You should hit each other hard, hurt each other, basically." And yeah, so
I love
there's
this,
the first head kick right there.
I love those people. Like mostly the people who ask for like hard sparring and stuff, like
Man, if we were sparring hard, I'd be dead right there.
Like there is no point like going hard sparring. Like for example, the best example I have is like
Another head kick right there, yeah.
People who are ghost kick. People who are like hard sparring mostly, like this is cool from Holland, this kind of stuff. Okay, most of those people are on steroids first of all. So yeah, that's true. Like yeah, they go super hard, but they take like a lot of roids. So that's why mostly they are like doing roid rage sparring. If you look at, for example, Thai guys like Shanghai, Sama, like people who are just like ruling like the role of striking. They don't do that much hard sparring for the simple reason that you don't want to get hurt, you don't want to get concussion, you don't want to get like broken ribs during sparring.
Oh yeah.
Like for me, you have to keep in mind that your sparring partner is here to help you to progress. So if you just like beat the crap out of your sparring partner, or if you do get like your crap beat, you're not gonna get like anywhere. You're just gonna get injured.
Yeah,
and
you won't be able to do it again as many times as you need.
Exactly. So I think you can put a bit of power on the body. You should avoid power shot in the head for the simple reason that concussion can happen. And like this is something you really want to avoid.
Yeah, right there would have been another concussion, man. That right high kick, you sneak it in.
I like to use like the right high kick behind the neck, because that's something that mostly people don't see coming. After the left hook to the liver, that's a pretty pretty effective combo. Like
yeah, you
for the body a lot.
Pulled that off so many times. And one thing we were talking about, but between rounds was how did you put it? Instead of focusing so much on what the other guy is doing, notice what you are doing that is eliciting a specific reaction from the other opponent.
Yeah. Like for example, I do this a lot in boxing because my boxing is like not that good. Like I can box with like professional boxer, that's not a problem for me, but like in term of like I'm not that strong in boxing compared to my striking. Like really not that strong. So I find people who can outbox me. Like simply, they just outbox me. Like the movement, I just try to punch, but sometimes they're gonna like sleep. They're gonna like control it so perfectly that I
gotta admit, I tried to get in to use my boxing, and I right now we've done we sparred today 8 rounds. We sparred the other day a bunch of times, and I have no idea how good your boxing is because I just couldn't get on the inside. That push kick, that teep is so well timed.
But I think when it comes to kickboxing, my boxing is pretty good because I can use like the legs and stuff. So when it comes to only boxing, that's a different story. Boxing and kickboxing or Muay Thai boxing is not the same.
Oh, it's so different.
Totally different.
It's so different.
So what I do...
Same thing with mixed martial arts.
Exactly with mixed martial arts, totally different. So what I do is like sometimes, if the guy is like way better than me in boxing, I'm just gonna like start to throw punch, but not with the idea of connecting those punch, but just like making the other guy react and see how he's gonna react to a set of combo. For example, if I use my jab, how he's gonna move, my cross, how he's gonna move. If I say like a 1, 2, 3 combo, how he's gonna react, how he's gonna counter me, and just look at that instead of like trying to punch him. And then after a few minutes or like 1 round or 2 rounds, like I start to get a grasp of how we move, how we do, how we fight, and then it's a bit easier to to connect my punches, to get over like this technical superiority from my opponents. This is what I do mostly when I get outboxed in pure boxing.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting. A lot of times you'll have, I'll hear boxers who've never kickboxed, never done MMA, never grappled, anything like that. They'll watch like a Muay Thai fighter, they'll watch an MMA fight and say, oh, those guys don't know how to box. And to an extent that's true, but it's a different thing. It's just like you were saying, it's a different thing.
Yeah, like for example, if you drop I really said any pure boxer in a kickboxing match, Muay Thai match, or like worse, like MMA match, he will never be able to apply his boxing. Never, ever, ever. For the simple reason that there is one thing that's called the low kick.
Yeah.
Like, just the low kick is enough to destroy like any boxer. Like we saw this with Alexei Inyashov.
Okay.
He fought, I don't remember the name of this heavyweight, like really strong guy, who fought Alexei Inyashov in a boxing against kickboxing match, and he lost by knockouts, by low kick.
Yeah.
Like the low kick is extremely effective. If you just use boxing, pure boxing, you will not be able to block any low kick. So you need to adapt your boxing to kickboxing, Muay Thai or MMA style.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those kickboxing versus boxing exhibitions, and it's not just that. Did you ever see that that old fight between Rick Rufus and Cheongfeng Kiat Songrit? It was like, yeah,
and he got his
like
leg,
the first fight between an American and a Thai.
And he got his leg like shot, like.
Yeah.
And then his brother was really salty about the defeat.
Oh yeah.
And then he went to Thailand to learn like low kick and stuff, and then he became like one of the like really amazing kickboxer using a lot of low kicks actually.
And what's so crazy about that is that low kicks were perfectly legal in American kickboxing. It's just nobody did them. Nobody valued them. Everybody thought like, oh, that's not a real move. It's not legit. Until they saw Kiat Sangrit just unload with the leg kicks. And man, that was a game-changing fight for a lot of people. Totally. But it's interesting how many people would go over to Thailand to be like, yeah, I'm going to prove that we don't need low kicks or Muay Thai to beat them. Like my friend Mike Stidham, he ended up becoming an MMA fight promoter, and he runs a gym, an MMA gym now. But back in the day, he was a Taekwondo guy and a kickboxing, actually a champion back in the U.S. And he ended up fighting this Thai dude. I don't remember who, but got his butt kicked a little bit. And that set him on this path to just change his whole paradigm about martial arts. And recently, in his 50s, he went back to Thailand to train and to compete again. And yeah, so we had this dude in his mid-50s fighting Muay Thai, full contact against people like literally half his age or younger. And
I respect that. That's crazy.
Oh yeah. And even like light sparring, you're like almost half my age, not quite, but almost half my age, and it's fascinating. And I'm not going to use age as an excuse at all, because if you consistently train, then man, your body will respond to what you ask it to do.
Age is still like something that matter in terms of speed, stamina, like power. Age matter anyway. Like someone who will tell you, oh, like don't use your age as an excuse, like don't know shit, like. Unfortunately, when you pass like 36 years old, like especially when you hit the 40s, like your body will like unless you start to use like steroids, for example, to keep like your hormone level like to the proper level. Unfortunately, you will start to lose in speed, power, and stamina. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, there are changes.
So that's why it's easier for me as a guy who's like 23. I'm gonna turn 24 to spar with a guy who's 40. I think if you take like 10 years back, it would have been like less easy for me in terms of like cardio, technique, and power. This is what I think.
Well, man, 10 years ago, to be quite honest, I wasn't as good of a fighter as I am today. I was faster. Here's the thing. The crazy thing is, like in my 20s, when I was doing Taekwondo competitively, I was fast, man. I could pump out a left high kick faster than most people could throw a jab. I can't do that anymore. So I've had to change my game plan. I've had to ask all these really important questions, like how do I compensate for this lack of speed with a technical understanding, positional understanding, understand of timing. And so I've had to force myself to become a better fighter because of a loss of speed, if you will.
Timing is important. Like with the proper timing, like I think the proper timing like overcome anything. Like power and speed. With the proper timing, proper counter. Like okay, if you're super fast but you're like not on the good timing, you either way miss or you get counter. So timing over everything for me.
Yeah. But what's crazy is that at age 24, you get it already. I mean, you have that timing, you have that stuff. So man, when you get older, you stay consistently training like this, man, it's going to be interesting to see the level of fight IQ you're going to develop.
I hope that I will be able to keep training like as long as I can. Like I really hope to. Like I'm pretty young, and thanks to my dad and my uncle, like I'm what I am today. Like because of their teaching, their advice, I could like develop like my technical skills and my technical understanding. Like Sam, like we have a lot of guys in our gym who are like really strong. So sparring with all those kind of guys who are like different style helped me a lot too to understand like how people are actually like fighting the different kind of style. Like the guys who are like rushing, the guys who are like sniping.
And that's one thing that's really interesting about training in Shanghai right now. Not so much like 10 years ago, but right now is that MMA is starting to take off. I mean, 10 years ago, there was nothing here. I mean, there were a couple of guys over at Shanghai Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like just a couple. It was a fledgling gym back then. Now they're everywhere. And I decided I'm going to open up an MMA gym in China. And so I did that, and it was like pulling teeth trying to get people to come. But now, you know, we got Absolute MMA, we got Kyle's Animal MMA Gym, we got the JX Fight Club, we got a bunch of places popping up all over, and it's awesome. I love that.
True that.
But what's super interesting is you have this huge international what's the word I'm looking for? Group of fighters and people training to fight, and so you get this breadth and depth of experience from all these different styles and countries. Compared to, say, when I was training in the U.S., like everybody had the same type of fighting style. Everybody had the same training tendencies, and so it's kind of like just fighting different iterations of the same guy in different weight classes over and over again in training. I don't know if you had that experience or anything comparable.
Not really, because like for example, I take the example of Muay Thai. Like in Muay Thai, we have different kind of Muay Thai. Like for example, Muay Book, it's gonna be like the kind of fighter who are always pushing forward, using a lot of punch, a lot of like stamina. Muay Thai, it means like the kind of fighter who are like extremely technical. So long range, using a lot of tip, a lot of jabs, a lot of control. Muay Pam, it's gonna be like a fighter used to clinch a lot. And you have like Kot Muay, it's mean like the guy like Shanghai, for example, Shanghai, Samart, who are like just like above everyone.
Oh yeah.
So depends of the school. You're gonna fight people who are like more axed on like clinch, on striking, on kicking. So it depends. Like they don't train the same way like everywhere in France and in Thailand too.
Yeah, Muay Thai is such a diverse martial art, especially the way they train it in Thailand. And you know Rock Chanan Sinsub?
Who?
Rock Chanan Sinsub. He's Achi's coach.
Oh, Rock, yeah. No, like I know him.
Oh man, when I first met him, we were both training over at the Tiger Muay Thai Kung Fu Club downtown, and so one day he says to me, "Hey, let's play in the ring." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Play in the ring, you know, punch, kick, knee, clinch." And I thought, "Oh man, he's gonna beat me up. Like this guy is very high level Muay Thai fighter. You know, won several championships over in Thailand." And has like some like 360 fights to his in his career, mostly wins, and just a phenomenal amount of experience there. And I thought, oh man, he's going to beat me up. And I again, coming from an American sparring tradition of everything is a fight in the gym, which is not how you should train at all.
Totally.
But that's how I did in my early 20s. All we did was fight in the gym.
Yeah,
It was
that's
all
fine.
full contact. We were trying to emulate the fight. We thought that's what you were supposed to do.
Yeah, mid-head training.
So I get in the ring very reluctantly, cringing, expecting this horrible pain, expecting a beatdown. And Rock, he just starts just tagging me. Just tagging, very light. Bah, 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 bah. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, we're playing in the ring. Playing. And I realized, wait, this is how he spars.
Yeah.
And
It's like Cha-Cha, Sanuk. They are like this. They call it like
Yeah.
Cha-Cha, Sanuk. It's really like having fun. Like just touching, like showing like, okay, there is hole here, and there.
yeah.
And I touch you, correct it, but like that's it.
Yeah, since then I've sparred with a bunch of Thais, but that was my very first experience sparring with a Muay Thai fighter from Thailand, and it was mind-blowing. And I realized, wait a minute, okay, this guy has like 360 fights. That means he's been fighting like every week or every other week since he was a kid. And suddenly it clicked, oh, nobody's paying him to fight in the gym. There's no reason to do that. If you're fighting every week, your training has to be like that.
Exactly.
There's no other way to do it.
Exactly. Plus, like, you reach a point where people sometimes they have something to prove to other or to themselves. So that's why they go really hard. I want to be tough.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that in the gym you have nothing to prove. Like you're just there to improve, train, share. For me, sparring is sharing.
Yeah.
When I spar with someone, it's really like a conversation during the sparring. I share with you, you share with me.
Yeah, sometimes
So-
figuratively and sometimes literally. Like between rounds,
Yeah.
you would pull me aside and say, "Let me show you this thing that I did right here," and man, that was
Exactly.
really cool.
Because for me, it's all about sharing. Like, as a martial artist, for me, martial arts is about sharing. If you don't know how to share, if you always keep your fists closed and tense, you cannot like share. You cannot give to people.
Yeah,
And for me, it's all about giving. Like, I just like give a small example. Like, in our gym in France, we are like a big family. Like, we are really close to each other. There is guys that needed some help, like for a lot of things. For example, like they get thrown in the streets because of problems with their family and stuff. And like we are a real community in the gym, so we just like stick together. We help together. Like we help each other. We stick together. So it's really all about sharing. So if you go, for example, in the gym and you just like beat the guy, like you just like being the guy, you just like come and beat everyone up. Like, first of all, no one's gonna want to train with you because like there is no point. And second, like, you're not sharing with anyone. You're just like acting selfish. I just like I destroy people, and maybe it's gonna help me to level up a bit, but yeah, you're gonna end up alone in the end. No one's gonna be able to train with you.
Oh man, absolutely. The only time to be selfish is during an actual fight,
Yeah.
where you take everything and you give nothing.
On the fight, like, till the referee don't say stop, continue. I have like some of my fighters like who just like punch the guy, the guy start to move or like turn the back, and they just look at me and they stop. No, like till the referee didn't say to stop, you fight
Oh yeah,
and you try to kill him. That's a fight.
yeah,
You try to use all the technique I gave you, all the advice I gave you, to just like destroy him. After
yeah.
the fight, you will be friend again, but the fight is the fight.
It sounds brutal, and this confuses a lot of people, especially like my new students. They'll come in and I'll ask them, like, when do you stop fighting in an MMA fight? And a lot of them will say, when your opponent taps out. And I will say, wrong.
When the referee
You stop fighting when the referee tackles you
Exactly.
and tells you to stop. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
But that's the truth of it. My very first MMA fight. So we ended up in this clinch, and I'm throwing some liver shots at the guy. The guy sprawls down on his knees because he's getting hit in the liver. And they recorded it on Sherdog as a guillotine choke, but it wasn't. It was a front headlock, and I'm throwing liver shots. And he starts tapping up a little on the opposite side of the referee.
Brazilian tap.
The referee can't see it. And I know what he's doing. He's trying to get me to let go, but I don't. I just keep hitting him until those taps get big enough for the referee to see. At which point the referee finally intervened. But man, that's a really important lesson. Because a lot of people feel like, oh, I got robbed out of the victory because I let go and he kept going, and the referee didn't stop it because he tapped. The thing is, the tap is not for you in a fight. In the gym, yes. in the gym respect the tap, let go during the tap.
Totally.
But during the fight, man, you fight until the referee tackles you.
I totally agree with this. Like till the referee didn't stop, I don't care. If the guy do like Brazilian tap, because that's what it's called, like Brazilian tap, like small tap and then like never tap, like, and then you fight. There is no such thing in the fight. Like you have to finish this fight, and the fight is finished when referee is telling that's finished. When you get your hand raised, this is the end of the fight. That's it. That's it.
Now here's another question I get a lot from my subscribers, which is how do you turn it on and then off again as far as that aggression in a fight? 'Cause I've seen you fight. I've seen you fight firsthand, and man, you're just a phenomenal, beastly dude in the ring. And in person, you're this super nice, approachable guy. And yeah, how would you answer that question? How do you turn it on and off?
There is guys, it's natural. There is guys like when they step in the ring, they have it, and everyone cannot be a fighter. I'm gonna be clear with that. There is people who are like who coming at me and like, yeah, you teach me a lot of technique, but I don't think you teach like you told me how to fight. So I'm like, yes, look, to know how to fight, you need to do sparring, and then like after sparring, you will see if you have the mind of a fighter or not, because there is people that cannot take a punch. You can be a great technician, but as soon as someone is punching you in the face, like you forget everything and you just blank and that's over. So there is people that no, they like to get punched and kicked. There is like people who don't mind getting punched and kicked or punching and kicking someone. They just don't mind.
Yeah.
So it will depend of your own personality. If you have this aggression like inside you that you can pull it off, or if you're like a kindred soul and like you cannot. There is people I know it hurt them like to punch someone or to kick someone, or they don't like to get punched and kicked, like they will not be able to withstand that, and they are like great technician. So it will depend of the person, and then after I think it's a matter of like getting used to. When you get used to fight, in the end you don't even have like this on and off like aggression feeling. It's like if you go out and buy like a loaf of bread, like you're used to the ring and you just come and you do what you know to do. That's it. Like a good example is Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Okay.
Like he just like go inside the cage and like he just like destroy his opponent like calmly. Like he's even like say like sorry, like I have to do it, so please stop. Sorry. You there is no like aggression, or you just do what you know. Like you just do what you know.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's interesting.
And apply it.
The first time I fought here in China, and this was a weird experience afterward for me, because it was a strange fight for a lot of reasons, but basically we kind of took turns beating each other up. This guy was kind of a badass Sanda fighter, great stand-up, zero ground game. So he's beating me up on the feet, and drops me, throws me on the floor, gets in my guard, starts punching me in the guard. I sweep him. I get on top. And the second half of the round, I beat him up in mount. And afterward, after this fight, we're both bruised and beaten and whatnot. But he comes up into the locker room and he starts apologizing and begging forgiveness for like every punch and every kick that he landed. And I was like, this is weird. I was like, no, don't even worry about it. It's just what you're supposed to do. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I didn't experience that ever again in a fight, but it was so weird to have a guy go from basically physically trying to harm me or kill me in the ring to back to this compassionate human, fully recognizing what he had done and not feeling great about it, if you will.
I feel you, because that's what happened. Like you were there on my fight at Animal FC.
Yeah.
So that's what happened with me with Z, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
Like
if you didn't see that fight, let's describe it for the audience here. It was that a Muay Thai rules fight or
no? It
K1
was a
rules
K1
fight? Okay,
K1
K1 rules fight. Jowad comes out and knocks this dude out, pretty much.
Yeah, I knocked him down like the first time with a knee to the face and a uppercut, and I asked the referee to stop the fight, and they sent my opponent back inside the cage, and So I had to finish it, and I just like sent him like the ghost kick, like I did with you in sparring a lot, like behind the neck. And my opponent, like after the fight, started to puke. Like he stayed down for a pretty long time and started to puke, and he had to go to the hospital. And I literally like screamed at the referee after the second knockout, like to stop the fight, and he did. But like I really felt like really like sad about the outcome of the fight, because when you're a fighter, you don't want to injure your opponent. Like during the fights, okay, it's you or me, do or die, that's it.
Yeah.
But you still know that this guy have kids, this guy have a life, this guy is like a human being who's like have, you know, feeling, this kind of stuff. So yeah, if you can avoid to injure badly your opponent, like you try. But if you must, like the only thing you can do is like after the fight just having compassion, because you could be in this situation.
Yeah.
Like there is some stuff in Thailand that's almost the same. Sometimes the fighter are not using elbows, for the simple reason that they know that if they cut the face of each other, the other guy will not be able to fight for a certain amount of time.
Oh yeah.
So if you don't fight,
well, that's his livelihood.
Exactly, you don't get money. So that's why in some fights, guys don't use elbow for this reason.
Yeah, so even though it is legal, it's on the table, they kind of have a gentlemanly agreement not to do it.
Or like on the last round, for example, in the 5th round, like they're going to stop fighting and just like walk around in the ring with like one hand raised. When they think like that they won, the difference is way too much, like they just do it like that. That's something that happened only in Thailand, for example. Nowhere else. Like most in other country, like they fight till the end.
Yeah, the Thais have such an interesting way of approaching Muay Thai. My older brother, he's living in Thailand right now. He's lived there for a few years, and he's making a really interesting study of Thai language and Thai culture. And he's never seen a Muay Thai fight. I keep telling him, you live in Bangkok, you live so close to Lumpini Stadium, just go there, man.
The new one?
Go there. Yeah, the new one.
Okay.
But he's never gone. But I was describing a Muay Thai fight to him. You know how they start kind of a slow pace. They start kind of light, almost like a light sparring pace, and then they pick it up with each round until the last round. They're basically going full on. And there's also a moment a lot in Thai culture, like the foot, like the sole of the foot. It's considered rude to touch somebody with your feet. Yeah,
tip to the face. They don't like tip to the face.
Yeah, and so if you see like a tip like that, then the fight will escalate often.
Yeah, they really don't like it to the face.
So I explained this to my brother, and he's like, wow, that explains so much about Thai culture. I was like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, well, they're just super, super polite people. And it's that politeness is reflected in the fighting style in many ways.
But for the tip to the face, especially because like for them, like the most sacred place of the human body is the head for them. Yeah. And then the most dirty, like the less sacred, is like the feet. So yeah, basically tip to the face, they really hate that because it's just the most disrespectful thing you can do to them.
Yeah.
Touching like your feet to the face. So like in Thai culture, like they try to avoid pointing their feet, for example, to Buddha or like to a lot of things, to people. So I stayed in Thailand for quite a bit, like living in the gym. I did like Jin Mongnon, I did Minayotin when there was like no foreigner, only a Canadian guy, Olivier, who's living in Vertex now. Yeah. So I did like a lot of different gyms, and when we were like mostly the only foreigner. So this is where like I learned to speak Thai. I don't speak fluently, but I'm pretty okay with it.
Oh, that's cool, man.
I start to forget because I'm learning Chinese now, unfortunately.
Well, that's the thing, man. About learning languages. Man, it can be a tough transition. Like I speak Spanish, and part of me is reluctant to fully embrace Chinese, even though I've been here for like 10 years, because I'm like, I don't want to forget Spanish, even though nobody speaks Spanish here. I run into somebody from Spain or Mexico once in a while, but man, it hardly ever comes out. But that's the thing. There's room in your head for more than one thing at a time.
It's pretty, like, especially for language, it's hard to remember everything. Yeah. So you have to make choice. You have to make choice, unfortunately. So I know that I will have to sacrifice my Thai to learn more Chinese.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, that's the thing. And a lot of people have the same concern about mixed martial arts. Like, I have this talent in kickboxing. If I learn jiu-jitsu, will I lose it? And the thing is, the great limiting factor in martial arts training, especially mixed martial arts training, is time.
Yeah.
Because, again, if we dedicate time to one activity, we're going to get better at it.
True.
Speaking of activities, let's check out round 2 of this sparring. Let's see, here we go. So coming out for round 2, again, light contact sparring with Jowad here, a touch of the gloves, and a teep. And something really interesting is you set up these patterns, and I noticed this both this time and last time is, and I've just been mulling over it over and over again. It's like a knee, and then like a straight knee, and then a teep, but they look the same. And then you'll throw an arc kick or a round kick, and initially it looks the same as the knee or the teep, so you always keep me guessing. And one thing I kind of pride myself on is being able to catch kicks. But you set them up so well, I don't know where it's coming from or what type of catch I need to use.
It's pretty tricky because like when you really realize it, like the kicks only come from like a single hip motion. So with just the hip and the twist motion, you can switch from like a tip, a knees, an half close middle kick, fully extended middle kick, low kick, high kick, inside high kick, like all those different like inside tip, all those kind of different tips are coming from almost the same like kind of movements. So yeah, if you do it like properly, it can be extremely tricky to catch them because like you just like end up in the last time, and I can like you can like change the middle to a high kick or a middle to a low kick or a middle to a tip, or like just like touch the middle kick to set another technique behind.
Yeah,
like
I
use a lot of
initial
tricks.
movement looks exactly the same every time, regardless of what direction the kick goes in. And not everybody does that. I mean, it's something that some of my old Taekwondo teachers would tell us to do. Like to start with a chamber, which is similar, not the same, but similar to what you're doing. Start with a chamber, which is like bringing your knee up, getting it ready to explode like a spring. And with most Taekwondo kicks, they start like that with the chamber, and it can turn into a front kick, a round kick, a hook kick, etc. But yeah, it's one of those things that I think has largely been lost in modern combat sports. Because for so long, especially with mixed martial arts, people would say, oh yeah, karate doesn't work in MMA, Taekwondo doesn't work in MMA, and whatnot. Because they were comparing people who didn't know how to grapple with people who do know how to grapple.
Yep.
And now, I mean, to be competitive in professional MMA, you have to be a complete fighter. You have to know how to grapple and box and wrestle and kickbox, etc.
I totally agree with this. Like, I don't think that Taekwondo or karate is useless. First of all, like there is like different type of karate. Like it would be really funny to have someone who tell like, yeah, Kyokushin karate is not working in MMA.
Yeah.
Like when there is like so many Kyokushin techniques used in MMA. For example, like all those like question mark kick, this kind of stuff, it comes from mostly like karate, like Kyoku.
That's the end of round 2.
Or even Shotokan. But like for me, pure, like only Taekwondo or only karate or only one thing doesn't work in MMA. That's true. Even if you do only jiu-jitsu, it doesn't work.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't work simply. Like if you
like
just
Roger Gracie famously said, 80% of jiu-jitsu doesn't work in MMA.
Especially if you can't bring someone down. Like we could see the perfect example of it on the last fight, Brian like Ortega against Holloway.
Okay.
Ortega is
I haven't seen that one, but go ahead and spoil it for me. Do it.
14-0 Ortega. Like
okay.
Extremely good, like black belt under like Gracie, really strong jiu-jitsu guys. He just got destroyed by Holloway. Destroyed by like jab, cross, only jab, cross, elbows, and like avoiding getting dragged to the ground. That's it. That's it. To one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in UFC.
Because he couldn't get him on the floor.
He couldn't get him on the floor.
Man, it's shocking how much this happens.
And like if you can't get someone on the floor and like you like extremely strong in jiu-jitsu, but that's it.
Yeah.
you will get destroyed. If you're only good in wrestling, okay, you're a great wrestler, but you don't know like really how to strike, you don't know like jiu-jitsu, okay, you will drag someone to the ground, but this guy is like jiu-jitsu black belt, he's gonna submit you.
Yeah, most
So
likely.
you have to get like a grasp of everything. You can get like more access on like Taekwondo or anything, but you have to know Muay Thai,
Yeah.
you have to know wrestling, you have to know jiu-jitsu. I think Muay Thai, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu are like the three like most dominant like martial arts when it comes to mixed martial arts, because in Muay Thai you have like everything, like elbow, spinning back kick, all this kind of stuff, control, up, clinch. Then wrestling, it's all about like control, drag and throws, and jiu-jitsu, it's gonna be all the part where like you move on the ground and like you submit people. So I guess that those three kind of martial arts are the three that dominate the most in mixed martial arts. But you can totally replace like only Muay Thai in striking by I don't know, karate and taekwondo, or you just need a base in striking, a strong base in striking, strong base in grappling, and strong base in like a submission art like jiu-jitsu, for example.
Yeah.
This is what I believe to be the most effective for MMA.
Oh, absolutely.
If you only max like, if you're extremely strong in striking but your wrestling or your jiu-jitsu sucks, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, man, this the Dragon FC, going back to that one that I refed at last year, or was it 2 years ago? Man, my memory is not what it used to be. That's another problem with growing older and getting punched in the head a lot as you grow older.
Punched in the head, exactly.
Not a great combination for your memory. Anyway, a couple of years ago, reffing at the Dragon FC, they had a group of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts, like legit black belts in Jiu-Jitsu. But that's all they knew how to do. Like, these guys couldn't box, they couldn't wrestle, and they were fighting a team of Russian Sambo fighters. Like, very well-rounded Sambo fighters, knew how to box, wrestle, kickbox, submissions. Guess who won? Every one of those fights in round one.
Sambo.
Exactly.
By striking.
Exactly. I mean, they just beat the living tar out of these guys.
Yeah, you can be a black belt, but when you get punched in the face, that's another story. Like, if you don't know how to protect yourself, like, it was working with the Gracie like before, because no one knew anything about like ground fighting.
Oh yeah.
But
UFC one was so one-dimensional.
Yeah. Now like it changed. People know that people can fight on the ground, so they overcome that. And like Sambo fighters are extremely strong. Like, they have like basics in everything: wrestling, striking, and submission. So yeah, Sambo is like pretty solid, extremely solid. Like, especially like in this kind of country like Russia and stuff, there is so many people. There is a lot of people who are like pretty poor. So for some of them, the only solution they have to succeed in life is martial arts. So they give like everything they have to be the best. And there is like thousands of people who want to be the best. Yeah. So you have to train a lot.
Man, I've met so many Russian fighters since I've been here in Shanghai. Like, so many Russian fighters come here. And even like non-fighters who just have a combat sports base. Like, it is hard to find Russian guys who don't know at least a little bit about fighting.
Because you need to know how to fight in Russia.
Yeah.
Like, in place like Vladivostok, in place like life is tough. Like you know, for me, Shanghai is not a perfect place for martial arts.
Yeah.
Because people are soft.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's a fact. Like,
it's a big city,
Shanghainese are more soft than people who live in Beijing, for a few reasons. Like climatical reason. It's way more cold in Beijing. Like, the life is more rough. There is less money. So people, like, there is like Mongolia and like the border not far away too. So when the life start to get like more tough, the conditions are like more tough.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to be tough too to survive, to adapt.
Absolutely. If you try to compare the strength between, say, a farmer, somebody who lives out on a farm, does manual labor his whole life, with somebody who lives in a city
and work on his computer.
Yeah, even if he like goes to the gym and lifts, which one is going to be stronger?
It's not the same.
9 times out of 10, it's the farmer.
Exactly. So that's why, like, in Russia, in this kind of country, like, you have to be strong, you have to be tough. So you have to learn martial arts. Yeah. That's it. That's the simple, like a simple reason. Why is there like all the professional Chinese fighter are living in Beijing? Like they are all living in Beijing.
Except the ones who live in Xi'an.
Or like Xi'an, or like
And the
those kind
Xi'an
of,
Sports University, there's some tough dudes over there.
yeah, when they learn like Sanda and like
Yeah, the China top team up there.
yeah, but like
Yeah, same deal. Northern
Same.
climate.
you see, northern climate and like people, they have to be tough to survive.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's the simple reason. You can see the same in like in UK, like with a lot like boxing a lot. Like most of the people from the UK like know how to fight. They all know like a bit of boxing because same. You want to grow like and walk around in the streets of London or stuff like that, Dublin. You have to know how to fight. Same in Paris. Like French are like strong fighter for the same exact reason. Like when you grew up in the hood like in France, and you want to get out in the street, you better know how to fight.
France is an interesting culture as far as combat sports goes because it's as far as I know the only European country that independently developed a kickboxing style. I don't know how big Savat is in France right now, but
Not that big.
not that big.
Not that big.
Okay.
Savat is it's pretty nice for movement. Let's say it's pretty nice for movement. They have like some nice boxing, but compare like if you put like a Savat fighter mostly against like a kickboxing Muay Thai fighter, he will get his ass kicked mostly.
Yeah.
We have like a few example that's like defy that, like Anissa Meksen who comes from Savat and she's like just destroying everyone in the world. Cédric Doumbé, I guess, but they are like fighting K1, not Muay Thai.
That's a substantial difference.
Yeah, like total difference. So yes, those people are like adapting like but after they quickly switch to kickboxing and this kind of stuff. So it's nice to start, but there is like when there is sports like K1 or Muay Thai, like it's pretty easy to choose between both, for the simple reason that you have less techniques in Savat.
Yeah, even so, I think it's still fascinating that France independently invented a kickboxing style when most other countries in Europe were sword fighting, basically.
That's true. That's true.
Let's take a look at round 3 here, see if anything interesting happened besides me getting kicked in the head over and over.
But I use like head kick a lot. I like head kick.
Oh yeah.
Especially controlled head kick. Like it's nice when you like can touch, but.
And yeah, that's something that's super interesting about your style here, Jowad, is your ability to pull those high kicks. Like you can throw them up fast, but then pull them at the last second. Especially the axe kick. Like you hit me with a number of axe kicks in here. Like bring it up really fast so I can't even see it, but then like pull it so it just kind of lightly lands on the head, and I recognize right there.
Yeah, like that.
Right there.
Just there, exactly.
Perfect timing.
It's,
oh man.
I guess that's something I tell my students too. For me, there is a few steps in martial arts. First of all, like you have to drill your technique really slowly and understand the concept of movements. For the straight, for the cross, like putting your knee inside, using your body weight. This is the first step when you want to learn like striking skills. Then you increase the speed, and then you increase the power. And when you can go full speed and full power, you already achieve like a perfect technique. You already achieve like a good level. But then you have another step, and this step is being able to control your kick, going like extremely fast and powerful, and then just in the end touch. Like when you succeed to do that, it means like you have a perfect control of your body. That's not easy at all, but this is like for me the last step when it comes to striking, being able to control everything. That's what I think.
Yeah. Oh man, absolutely. If
a few inside I kick too. I really like this technique.
If you have that type of control to bring up an axe kick, for example, right over somebody's head and pull it at the last second so you can just tap them. The ability to just flex your leg and chop it down with power, man, that's easy. That's easy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I like the axe kick, as a Taekwondo as a guy with a Taekwondo background, that's something I did a lot. But I've always found it's one of the more difficult kicks to throw with that type of control.
It depends if you send it with the feet or with the heel. Like I think if you send, like mostly in Taekwondo, it's with the feet because you want to increase a bit the range and like touch.
You got a little extra reach.
So
that
mostly,
extra point.
if you hit with the feet, that's okay. It's like a tap with the feet. But when you go with the heel, like Kyokushin style, that's true. It's a bit harder to control. So that's why mostly when I use this technique, when I want to really reduce the speed, I just grab my own leg. Like when it goes down, I just like grab my own leg with one of my gloves to because I have big legs, so it slow down the kicks a lot.
Yeah.
So after, if my sparring partner like use this to sweep me or low kick me, after I don't like hold my leg back too much anymore because like otherwise they don't understand like I try to be nice. So they use this to low kick me really hard or stuff like that, or sweep me.
That's the end of round 3, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 3.
Yeah, let's skip
I think
ahead
we
to
had
round.
something like 8 rounds or even maybe more. Like we did a lot of rounds.
Moving on to the next round here.
It was really funny.
But yeah, I don't know if we'll watch them all, but we'll go through a few of them anyway. But yeah, one question I get a lot, and I'm asking you a lot of the questions my subscribers ask me because a lot of them are so pertinent to what we were doing today. And that's how do you fight a taller opponent? And I don't often have the opportunity to spar with people taller than me, especially here in Shanghai, where, you know, being over 6 feet tall, or, you know, 183, 84 centimeters, or however tall I am in metric, is the exception and not the norm. So you're a little taller, and you have a phenomenal understanding of your reach right here. So what's conventionally taught is get on the inside so he can't use his reach, except that's not really something that's easy to do with somebody who's very good at that push kick like you are.
So that's extremely hard to break the distance with tall people for the simple reason that if I spar with someone smaller than me, I'm gonna bait him to go inside actually because I'm really confident with the inside. I love inside fight, especially because I can set up my high kick from the clinch or like this.
Oh, like that, yes, like right in clinching range.
So yes, you need to break the distance for the simple reason that if you're smaller than me, you have less reach mostly. There is people who are smaller but they have like long limbs, so mostly you will get less reach than me. So if you stay away from me, I will just like snipe you using my left leg, and you will not be able to reach. So you need to break the distance. So mostly to break the distance, what I can advise people to do is like using a lot of low kicks, like catch and low kicks.
Yeah.
And strong defense to rush in, and then use like body shots, a lot of body shots, and going back to the face. Tall people mostly, we have our hands who drop a bit when we fight like smaller opponent because we are like, I'm taller than him. I'm just gonna like bend back a bit, and he will not be able to reach me. So when I spar with people taller than me, this is something I use: breaking the distance with the block, going for the body, the face, and a lot of low kicks. But the danger is, when I bait people to come in, is because I want to set up my knees. Like if you're smaller than me, I will use my knees. And the knees,
head kick, man.
The knees is just like the best technique against boxing.
Oh man.
One of the best technique against boxing. Like heavy knees are extremely hard to counter.
Yeah, and you showed me a couple of ways to throw knees I never even considered before, like dropping it downward.
Yeah, we call see up.
Right under the bladder or the spleen or whatever that is we were doing. It's just it's subtle. It's something you might not notice from the outside, but you certainly can feel it.
Yeah, it's really, really painful. Like see up, it's like when you really lift the knees, control, and then like you just like drop the knees. Like if you like just do this kind of movement with your knees like up to the solar plexus to the bladder, and like that's extremely effective. You can do it from like block or from the clinch.
Yeah, and there's the end around 4. Yeah.
So this and like the lifting the knees and like
5.
closing the knees too, like using the hip movement, like to strike, like small short knees. Yeah,
that's something that's really interesting about the way you throw both your knee and your push kick. Is the hip extension is very subtle, whereas the way it's often taught is this big stretch the hip out like all the way, and the way you do it is so much faster.
It's just about like momentum and like momentum and how we say that before, like just momentum, like the good moment to twist it, and
Yeah.
just coming from the hips, the ass and the upper, like all your body is making like one when you do this movement, and like it's just like a small and sudden like
Yeah, just a little
push.
quick pop
Exactly.
in the hip.
That's make everything, and then just a matter of like balance and like control.
It's almost like the hip action when you do like the cha-cha, if you're familiar with Latin
Exactly, just
dancing.
about the hip action. Like mostly people are like like if you know how to fight, mostly you know how to use your hips. Like it's all about hips movement. Like everything is controlled by the hips. Like for example in Jiu-Jitsu, the one of the first thing they tell you is like you need to control the hips,
Yeah.
because the hips is the source of everything. As soon as you can move your hips or your head, like you can generate power with your body. If
Oh,
the
yeah.
hips are stuck and the head is stuck, mostly you're like in a situation that sucks a bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's historically why you win in wrestling if you pin your opponent. If their shoulders and hips are pinned to the floor, it's a beatdown position.
Right, basically, you're like in a really bad situation.
And what a lot of people don't realize about the guard, for example, guard is not lying on your back. It's not. It's not lying on your back with your legs wrapped around the other guy. That's not jiu-jitsu. That's a beatdown position. Jiu-jitsu is when you can start moving your hips and your shoulders, get the hips and the shoulders unpinned and free, where they can start to be offensive. That's where jiu-jitsu begins.
Unfortunately, like when it comes to jiu-jitsu, since I'm really a white belt, like I cannot really like understand those concepts yet. Like really like, you know, the deep understanding of jiu-jitsu. I cannot for the moment, but that's something I really want to learn like more and more.
Man, you definitely will, because man, you are built for jiu-jitsu. I mean, you're built for kickboxing, obviously, with this reach and these long legs and flexibility, but all of that translates into jiu-jitsu. Like look up Neil Melanson. You don't know who this is? I recommended his book Mastering Triangle Chokes,
Yeah.
which I think would be a phenomenal help to you. Because he's a tall, lanky guy. Well, he started out being lanky. I mean, he's big now. He put on a lot of muscle in the last few years. But he used to train with Caro Parisian and the guys at the highest end gym. And Caro is a much smaller guy, but he would tell Neil Melanson, you should be triangle choking everybody. Oh man, another head kick. So many head kicks.
Coming from behind.
You should be triangle choking everybody with your legs and your flexibility. There is no reason that you shouldn't triangle choke every human being that you grapple with. And being a taller, lanky guy myself, man, one of my old coaches used to. That's the end around. What was that? 4, 5, 6?
5, I guess.
5. And the beginning of the next round, you're doing handstands in the boxing gloves.
Working on my handstands.
And it's hard enough to do handstands without boxing gloves on, man. But yeah, some of that calisthenics movement. But yeah, some of my old jiu-jitsu coaches, like Shane Brenner, used to get mad at me when I would struggle doing things like the Darce choke and the triangle choke, and he'd be like, if I had long, lanky limbs like you, I would Darce choke everybody. That's a gift. Don't waste it.
They told me about Darce choke too. I need to learn that.
It's a good move. If you got long arms, man, you are built for Darce chokes and triangles.
But triangle, I use this a lot. Like that's one of the move that I succeed the most. Like when I fought against, like because I started to fight against like colored belt too, like with the Dave Group Challenge. Since my team, like the team of Absolute, was missing one guy in the colored belt, I just proposed myself to fight. Since again for me jiu-jitsu is like it's nothing. Like you just fight. You're not gonna get hurt fighting jiu-jitsu when you're a white belt. So
worst case scenario, you tap out.
Yeah, exactly. If you have like a brain and you tap,
squeeze your neck a little bit.
Exactly, that's fine. So I end up like fighting 2 times against blue belt, and I got submission. I win by submission the 2 times. One time by rear naked choke, and the other time by triangle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really try to use my triangle a lot. And then when it doesn't work, switch to TP, because that works too. That's pretty good. I know that I use my legs a lot in my jiu-jitsu.
Man, this round I feel like I just got manhandled a little bit.
But it's not always
trying to change up
easy.
the game, trying to go back to some old Taekwondo habits like side kicks and back kicks and whatnot. trying to capitalize on the reach that I have. But
low kick.
man, it is a puzzle sparring with you, man.
The thing is, like, see, when you spar with someone that you're not used to, who's a bit taller and like with a different style, that's true. It can be a bit hard, a bit tricky in the beginning.
Yeah.
I've been sparring like with a lot of like strong guy in France, and that's true that I got used to a lot of different style, like in fighting, out fighting. So when people like don't know me too much and don't know my technique too much, it can be a bit hard to understand the concept behind my techniques. Oh, knee to the face.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another thing you're really good at is bring that knee up, that high knee inside the clinch, and you were describing that process right there, man. So many high kicks in the clinch.
Ice kick.
But yeah, you get in that clinch, that head-to-head position where most guys feel comfortable because they're not going to take strikes right there. Well, not elbow or punches, but you got such great flexibility. You can bring those knees right up, almost to your own head, to need the other guy.
But I think that in mostly every martial arts, like you need to work on that.
The Street Fighter move right there.
Yeah, sure you can. You need to work on that, like making people feel comfortable, like, oh, there is no danger then. And then getting out with something. So that's true that I use this technique a lot, like holding people next to my shoulder and like kneeing them from behind. But I use this for a lot of things too, for the high kick, for example, the high kick setup. Like I get really close to people, so they're like, okay, I'm safe. The only danger is punch and elbow. And then like the high kick comes from over, behind the neck. So it's mostly giving like this sensation of people of like being safe. When they can feel that I'm safe, this is where like you can really use like some tricky move.
Oh, that's so true, man. That's so true. A lot of times, especially with beginners, when they spar for the first time, they run away from everything.
True.
Every jab, every kick, they run away from it. True. And so, what I generally teach them, because nothing happens when that happens. They just run away from each other. It's jab, run away, jab, run away, jab, run away. I'll tell them, all right, what happens if you just take a step back? And they try it. And what happens, their opponent moves forward to fill in that space. Because again, they don't feel threatened anymore. And what happens when they move forward? They become vulnerable. Because the best time to hit someone isn't when they're running away. It's when they're moving toward you.
Totally.
So man, that's a great philosophy of fighting. Make your opponent feel safe.
You should feel safe and confident. The more they feel safe and confident, and the easier it is to trick them. I do something too. That's what I did a bit with you too. Is I accelerate a lot, like put a lot of speed with no power, and create a lot of holes in my guard, and like just trade stuff like that to just set one technique is just the high kick, like scrambling. And in the end, it was just like to try to make my opponent scramble too, just to set this back high kick in the neck. And that works a lot because you just like drag people in a type of boxing that they feel like, yeah, I can do it. Like he have like all in his guard. That's the punch are not affecting me. And then in the end, like it was a trap. So that's totally true. It's all about this. And in Jiu-Jitsu, it's the same. Like when you go for like, for example, like collar choke, like lapel choke.
Yeah.
Like you don't feel threatened by lapel choke mostly. Like you're like, oh, it got a grip, but that's fine. And then like, you just like pass out.
If you're just hand fighting for the grips, if you're aggressively reaching for that collar, everybody can see it a mile away.
When you go like,
gotta sneak into it.
And like you grab and you get like, for example, baseball bat, like you get like 1 and 2 and it's already over.
Yeah.
So the loop choke. The loop choke is a great example. Just grab and then man,
that's a sneaky one.
Up and you end up in a situation where like you get choked and you don't even know how. So you just need to make people feel confident, like feel that I'm safe, I'm fine, I can do it. And in the end, no, it was a trap all along.
And the loop choke, got some stories about that. So I started grappling without the gi, and I spent years and years and years grappling without the gi. I did grappling competitions without the gi. I felt very confident grappling without the gi. And the first time I competed with a gi was here in China. It was about 10 years ago. And I thought, oh man, I was competing in the white belt division. Like, I feel like I'm sandbagging everybody. I have all this grappling experience. And the first time I put the gi on was for that competition. And man, that was a wake-up call about how it is so important to train specifically for specific sports. Because unless you are some type of freak athlete grappler, like say Josh Barnett, who never put on the gi and then put on the gi for the first time and dominated black belts, for the average person that doesn't happen, and it certainly didn't happen to me. I was surprised at how different it was. So I guess you're having a kind of opposite experience over at Absolute Training with the gi initially. I'm guessing that was your first experience with Jiu-Jitsu?
It was not okay. It was my first real experience with Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
I got a few I knew like about Jiu-Jitsu. My dad told me like a few submission, for example, the triangle.
Oh yeah.
Like my dad was the one who really told me how to do a triangle, like the first time. Triangle, wrist lock, and guillotine.
Okay.
But the first time I put a gi on was in a war zone. So when I came to China. So this was like before like it became Absolute. It was the first time I've put a gi on with a white belt.
Yeah. And for anybody who not in the know, Warzone was a jiu-jitsu gym, which later became Absolute Mixed Martial Arts.
I was living there for like 2 months, 2-3 months. I was living inside the gym, so I had a lot of time to to kill.
Yeah, you know, some people like me, I had a really hard time transitioning to the gi. Some people just gravitate toward it instantly. Like one of the wrestling coaches here just loved it and picked up things that took me years to understand almost instantaneously. I was jealous of him, to be honest. Like, I worked so hard for that, and you get it on day one. Was that a weird transition for you, putting on the gi, or just nothing exceptional?
Nothing exceptional, except that you feel hot. Except that you feel hot in the beginning, but otherwise, no, not that much. Like you just have to understand that you should not let people grab you, like for example the collar or like getting grips. I couldn't really understand like about the grips in the beginning, but then after my first submission, I was like, oh, okay, that's why I should not let people do this.
Yeah.
Like spider guard, all this kind of stuff, like the collar sleeve. Like I just realized that okay, that's bad for this reason, and then like you just like understand that you should not let people do it.
I guess if you start early enough with the gi, it's not that big of a deal. But if you develop this whole game based on something completely different,
totally,
and then you try putting on the gi, you're gonna feel like, I hate this stupid thing. I never want to wear it again.
Yeah, totally.
So,
but that's normal. Like, it's like I don't know if you learn like any, like for example, I take the example of a kid, like a small kid, like who just born, like he can't learn any languages in the world. Any languages, he can learn it. Yeah. But when you already speak French and you have to learn to speak, like, I don't know, like Chinese, that's way harder. It's the same thing. Like if you learn something like straight, like with the gi, for example, it's going to be, I think, easier that, if you already learn like something like catch wrestling and like you have no gi and then like you just put this stuff on and you're like, oh, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And you have to rethink all your game because it's not working the same way anymore. So yeah, it's what I believe.
Grips, man, but it's a valuable contrast. Like, you know, even though the gi doesn't come into play in mixed martial arts, it's something I do every week, twice a week, 4 hours a week, at least, because I've grown to appreciate the contrast. So if you asked me like 10 years ago, I would have said, training in the gi is a waste of time for MMA. But I don't think that anymore. It is a valuable contrast, and contrast is such an important teacher.
For me, I need to start to train jiu-jitsu for real. Like I'm not training. I'm not gonna lie. Like I like to have fun, like saying like I do jiu-jitsu from the bottom, like satanic jiu-jitsu, and like people. But I know I need to start to train because. Even though like, okay, I dominate in white belt. Okay, I can submit like blue and even purple sometimes. But I lack like the basics understanding of jiu-jitsu. And for example, as someone who teach Thai boxing, I don't teach my students like axe kick, spinning back kick, and rolling thunder like on intro class. No, I teach them basics, and I want them to master the very basics of Muay Thai, like small details, before like switching to advanced stuff.
Oh,
So I know that I need to learn those very basics, and I advise this to everyone. If you want to learn something, start with the basics, even if it seems like boring, like you think like, oh, I can go like above that because I'm strong, I'm athletic. No, in the end, like it will make the difference between being okay and being good, or being like really
man,
good.
that's huge. When I started in jiu-jitsu, I didn't really understand what the basics were. I thought I did, but looking back, I had no clue. So I tended to gravitate more toward niche techniques. Like I fell in love early on with the rubber guard, because I bought Eddie Bravo's book, Mastering the Rubber Guard, when it first came out. and I just fell in love with it because it was the first really well illustrated and written martial arts book that I'd ever seen. And Eddie Bravo did a great job of delineating his technique and delivering it into a system. And I'd never seen anybody put it in a book like that before. And so I was able to pick it up quick and use these techniques in fights. And actually won one of my fights using a rubber guard setup into a triangle choke, which I turned into a teepee, choked the guy unconscious, and it was cool. And I felt like, oh yeah, this works. This is my thing. This is my jam. And so I got stuck in this like rubber guard only, 10th planet only type of fringy jiu-jitsu thing for a very long time. But my basics were, how to put it bluntly, my basics were garbage. So if I got into these very specific situations, yeah, I could pull up mission control and catch the guy with something. But if it wasn't in that very specific scenario,
You can do anything.
yeah, I was very limited with what I was able to do. So, man, it is a process.
And
It is so much more important to learn strong foundational principles than fringy techniques that work some of the time.
And that's why, like, I don't support like traditional martial arts, mostly like Wing Chun and this kind of stuff. Like,
We're going to make a lot of people on the internet angry. They already think like, Ramsey, why do you hate Wing Chun? I don't hate Wing Chun.
sorry,
I'm going to say I don't hate Wing Chun. I'm saying Wing Chun is a small piece of the puzzle. It addresses one range of hand fighting and one range of trapping, and that is something that does happen at times in fights, but it's such a small piece of it.
and for me, like, if you go to this kind of system, but you don't look at the very basics, like for example of like boxing, Muay Thai, like, or like proper striking, not only Muay Thai but like kickboxing or sambo or like karate, not all karate, because like there is a lot of karate that's bullshit too. But if you don't go into those kind of basics first, and you go straight to like whoosh whoosh technique that will not be able to apply without getting counter, well, it's not gonna be really worth it to use. Like for example, okay, and against like, yeah, Ramsey told right, like, okay, there is entrap in a lot of like in some situation in fighting, for example, yeah, in Thai boxing we do a lot of entrap too, like to set the elbows, because we use elbows a lot. I guess that in sambo too there is a lot of entraps. Even in boxing there is entraps, like sparring or like catching the guard and punch. But if you only know how to do two things and not even the right way, well, you're gonna have trouble, a lot of trouble, against people who are like more versatile.
Man, speaking of people on the internet thinking that I hate Wing Chun, and part of that reason is that Master Wong video that I made. I'm pretty sure you saw that one, where he's doing the rear naked choke.
I did.
And you know, Master Wong, bless his heart, but he made some mistakes. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad person or anything like that, like a lot of people seem to think, but he made some mistakes with the rear naked choke. But some interesting comments I got on that was, why do you hate Wing Chun? Why are you hating on Wing Chun? But the thing is, he's not doing Wing Chun. He's doing bad Jiu-Jitsu in that video.
How to, like, for those people, I will simply say that, like, as long as you don't agree with something with facts, like, you become a hater. Like, for example, or like they can use this argument to, like, yeah, but who are you to criticize? For me, like, friends, I'm no one. Like, I'm literally no one, and you can maybe think like, yeah, this guy is no one, like, he cannot say anything, like, because he's no one. Yeah, I'm no one, that's true. But I'm pretty sure that if you bring, like, really any, like, Wing Chun practitioner, or like people who practice this kind of martial arts, they will not be able to do much on a guy like me who's no one, because of basics. Like, if you don't master, like, those kind of basics, you will not be able to do much. I can do much with a professional boxer. Like, if I only do boxing, and we spoke about that just a bit before, against a professional boxer, like high level boxer, I can't do anything in boxing. Even with a guy who's 60 kg, he will outbox me and I will not be able to do things, because strong basics. So if you don't agree with something and you back it up with facts, it doesn't mean you're a hater. It's just reality. And after, you can accept reality or deny it. That's up to you.
Indeed. But he has 2 million subscribers, so he must be right.
So yeah, after, yeah. So, unfortunately, when there is like mass with like not any knowledge, that scream and stuff will always make their voice being heard much than someone who, like, you know, have knowledge but have less follower. That's a fact too, unfortunately.
Hold on, I'm going to change the lighting here real quick.
People have like a lot of trouble with like accepting reality. Like, unfortunately, reality is hard, it's cold, and it's made of facts. Like, if you tell me that something worked, I'm okay with this, but I need facts. I need proof.
Yeah, this is a big problem, and it's always been a big problem in martial arts, where we have people living in fantasy land, people living in the neighborhood of make-believe as far as martial arts goes, because they invest all of this time in their martial art, whatever it is, and they want to believe that it works, because I spent 15 years getting my black belt in this style. And when confronted with the reality that their training was not as effective as, say, some other guys' training, it hurts. It's painful.
Totally. I can totally understand that, but that's why cross-training is great. Like, for me, if any of you is training in a gym where, like, your teacher is telling you, like, oh, don't cross-train, oh, don't visit other gyms, oh, no, don't spar with other style.
Oh, man.
You might be training with, like, a martial arts guru who just want to keep you close to him so you can have, like, you know, like, a kind of satisfaction, or like, that's a bit like strange, but
that's bordering on a martial arts cult.
Yeah, that's like martial arts cult. Like, if you really want to improve as a martial artist, as a person, I think that you should cross train, you should visit other gym, you should spar with like different kind of style.
Absolutely.
So you can improve. You can see, like, oh, I'm great at that, but I'm not that good at this. I need to improve on this point. Ask question, and then you will improve for sure.
Yeah, and I know a lot of gym owners are afraid of their students going to other gyms and possibly finding something that they like more and losing their business. And I understand that concern, but you know, I've been through this situation a lot. Like, people will often ask me, what do you think about cross-training? I'm like, do it. Anything that makes you a better fighter is what you need. And you know, I have had students go to other gyms and stay there and not come back, and that's fine, because if it gives you the result you want, that is the right way.
Yeah, totally. Like, people should, like, visit other gyms. For me, same. I push my students to go, like, my students. I push the people I train with to go to other gyms, spar with other guys, and see how other people teach. Mostly, if you know that you teach stuff properly, people will come back. Like, they will realize that the way you're teaching is like a nice way, so they will stay with you. And if they want to change, like, they're free. I'm not their dad. I'm not their master or anything. They don't owe me anything. I teach them, and if they feel that they feel okay with me, they feel that they are learning, they're progressing, they will stay. Otherwise, they will just leave. And if a lot of your students leave for this reason, you have to think, like, you have to rethink your way of teaching, your way of like sharing your martial arts. And that's something that most of the people who teach martial arts don't think too much. Like, am I doing the perfect thing? Am I doing the thing right?
Oh yeah, man, teaching is such an interesting skill set.
Teaching is really hard.
And finding people who can fight and who can teach just as well, that's a rare combination.
That's true. That doesn't happen often. You can be a great fighter and a lame teacher, and a lame fighter and amazing teacher. Like, there is guys with like big belly that fight maybe one time or never fight in their life. That's are like just perfect teacher.
I mean, this happened so many times in the history of boxing. Like Ray Arcel, he coached, blanking on his name. Anyway, Ray Arcel, one of the greatest boxing coaches of all time. The guy never boxed. He never stepped foot in the ring to compete. But he understood the sport. He understood how to teach the sport, how to coach the sport, and how to get people to that champion level. And that boggles some people's minds, like, how is that possible? How is that possible? But again, if you look at almost any other sport, like football, for example, in the United States, it's a big industry, it's a big sport there. The greatest football coaches are guys who were never football champions themselves, most of the time, because they're different skill sets. But something really interesting about you, Jowad, is that you're very reluctant to accept a title like coach, teacher, anything like that. Master, definitely not that one. Tell us a little bit about that.
There is already people who call me like master or crew, and every time I'm like, oh, I feel chills on my skin. I'm like, oh, please, like, just call me Joa. Like, even coach, I don't like to be called coach. I'm 23. I'm gonna 24 on in like. In
oh, you're not even
like
24 yet. Oh man, you're younger than I thought.
I'm gonna turn 34, so I'm a kid. Like, if you think that you know life or you know anything at 23 or 24, like, think again. You don't know shit. You're a kid. So
the fact that you understand that at this age
I don't
speaks
know
volumes.
anything. I don't want anyone to call me coach or anything or master, because it would be like if I spit on the face of my father and my uncle, who spend years and years building fighter from scratch, building world champion from scratch. People who couldn't do anything right, they made them like world champion, and not the world champion you can get like with like those fake belts you have mostly in most of organization, where like you're world champion but you're the world champion of nothing. No, WBC, WMC, WPMF, champion of the south of Thailand, when like there were like no foreigner in Thailand, no foreigner at all. Like, we had some of the fighter like being like champion in Thailand. So I cannot call myself a coach, because it would be a huge lack of respect to people. I do respect people who sacrificed years and years, like 30 years of their life teaching and like polishing like their skills, polishing the way they teach to create like the perfect athlete in their mind. It would be a huge insult. So this is why I don't want people to call me master or anything. I have so many things to learn. Even now, when I go back to France, and like, since I don't really train Muay Thai or anything in China, because I don't have anyone to train with mostly. They to hold me pad and stuff like that. Like, even like that, my father sometimes look at me and he's like almost like, all your life of training just for this, go back to the bag and drill some more. Like, I have so many things to learn. I have so many things to polish. I have so many things to learn as a, like, to teach, that I cannot call myself any like coach or master or crew. Like, people like to call, like, to get called crew, like if it gives them like magical power. No, it's just like a word. That's it.
For those not familiar with that title, it's a title for a coach in Thai, for a Muay Thai coach, basically. But the interesting thing about the Thai is that I know is none of them call themselves crew or Kun crew.
You can
or
get
anything
called
like that.
Ajahn. Ajan. Ajan, it's like a teacher. Ajan, that's it. Mostly they call they call their teacher like Ajan. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, or if it's like a really old guy, for example, like I take the example of Yotong, who is now dead, like rest in peace. Yeah, a guy like that, you can get called crew because he's like really old. He was really old. Like he built like he got like the highest number of champion in Thailand. Like he built like champion like Samat Payakaron, this kind of fighter. So I could carry a guy like that crew, but otherwise like just call them Arjan or just call them coach and that's it. You don't need like this kind of title like just to make you feel good. Like I think this is ego mostly. That's the ego stuff.
Yeah.
People
So what you're saying is if I call you Quen Crew Grandmaster Sifu Sensei
Sifu Jowad.
Oh,
Sifu, yeah, Sifu. Oh, I see this a lot. Like, oh, Sifu, like when they teach like Wing Chun or anything like Sifu. Like mostly they like to do this in Spain and this kind of stuff. Like, yeah, Sifu.
You got a guy who's like 25 years old teaching some Kung Fu style, calling himself Sifu Gary. And I made a video where I kind of riffed on that a little bit, and then a guy who actually did call himself Sifu Gary commented about how offended he was, and I'm sorry about that, Gary, but to me it just doesn't sound cool. I mean, pick a language and stick to it. That's what I say.
Sifu. No, don't call yourself anything. You're just a human being in the end. Like you're born from dust and you would go back to dust. So
amen to that, man.
Don't call yourself anything. You're just a human being. Okay, if you have like more knowledge, that's great. Share it, but like don't try to boost your ego, like with like title or a belt. There is a lot of people who try to boost your ego with belt of like low organization. Like we have a lot in China, like golden belts.
Yeah.
There is a lot of people with like golden belts or like world champion of like nothing.
And because it looks cool.
Yeah, it looks
cool. And it
cool,
sounds cool to say, I'm a world champion.
Yeah, but for example, like I have a belt. It just helped to tie my pants. That's the only belt I have and will ever had in my life. That's it.
And even those title belts, I got to tell you a story about title belts, man. You know, when I was competing in kickboxing, I was never a great kickboxer in my estimation. In fact, you can look up on the internet a pretty lousy kickboxing match that I had. However, I actually fought for a world title at one point. I fought for the WKA world title, not because I deserved it, but because I was a last-minute replacement for a guy who probably did. And for whatever reason, the guy who was managing me at the time managed to pull some strings and get me that fight. I didn't even know it was a world title fight. I just flew out, showed up, fought, and then afterwards I was like, wait, that was for a belt? Okay. So, I mean, I could go on and brag like, I was a contender for a world title, and it doesn't mean anything because it wasn't even a good fight, to be honest. I mean, it wasn't like anything I put my heart and soul into. I showed up to collect a paycheck, to be honest.
For me, if you want to brag about your belt, I have a few questions to ask you. If you have a belt in anything, okay? What was the organization when you get your belt? Is it WMC, WBC, SKA, Europe? Okay. Second, what weight categories? And third, who was the guy you fight with to get this belt? If you fought against nobody, okay, that's something. Again, even if it's a big organization like WBC, but you fought against no one. Okay, then like weight categories, because there are weight categories where like it's way easier to get a champion. There is weight category where you have like some real killer out there.
Yeah.
Like for example 72.5, 75. Kickboxing or Muay Thai, you have some pretty solid guys. 70, like City Shai, Marat Grigorian, like solid guy, extremely strong guy. When you go like lower on the weight category, sometimes you have like some category where you don't have a lot of people. And then, like the organization, because if you're world champion in WMKC, Brazilian organization or like a Chinese organization when there is no one, nah, that kind of like take bits. Like no, you got the belt, okay, but for nothing.
Man.
So that's what I think about like the belt system, where everyone is world champion.
Oh man, the IBJJF, bless their hearts. I mean, they do a lot for the sport of jiu-jitsu worldwide, but the fact that they have like 500 world champions every year speaks volumes about how valuable that title actually is. I mean, if there was one world champion per year in each weight class or something, okay, fine. But since there are like 500 people worldwide who every year who can say, I am the IBJJF world champion, that's...
But that should be it, normally.
Yeah.
Like, you should have like one guy in each weight categories, world champion, that's it.
Yeah.
You want to be world champion? Like, it should be like this, like, huge, like, hundreds, even 1,000 if you want, I don't care. But like, 1,000 fighter, like if you know, like, Dragon Ball, like,
Dragon Ball, yeah.
Like, you fight someone, you win, you pass, you win, you pass, you win, you pass, till you get to the final. In the end, you had to do, like, I don't know, in the year, like maybe 100 fights.
Yeah.
During the year. Like, every week, so you have, like, a fight. And that's it. And in the end, you can call yourself world champion. This is what I think, like, would be the best solution.
Oh, man, I absolutely agree with you. And hearing that, man, it actually makes me so glad that I lost that world title fight. I'm putting world title up in quotes for anybody listening to audio only. Because, man, if I won that, that would have destroyed me as far as ego goes. Because I would have been so tempted to take that belt and say, like, look, I'm a world champion. And I sucked back then. I'll just put it out there. I sucked back then. And I didn't deserve that shot, and I certainly didn't deserve to win it. But if I had, and it ended up being a split decision, actually. So it actually came pretty close. But man, because I know myself, and I know the type of person I was back then. Because if I had that title, I would have rested on my laurels.
Yeah, and then you would have
That's dangerous.
Yeah. No, extremely. And when you comfort people, when you comfort people on mediocrity, they stop to improve.
Yes.
When you and that's the thing with like I come back to like traditional martial arts and stuff like that. When you comfort yourself in the comfort zone, you're like a small fish for me, like a big fish in a small pond for me. That's what you are. Like, when you go inside the sea, you just realize that you're actually pretty small, and like there is a lot of big fish out there. So when you start to comfort yourself and like stay on your laurel and like stop to try and having this like challenging mindset, this is why you start to improve, and this is like the start of your downfall.
Yeah.
So I don't respect people with like belt that show off and this kind of stuff. That I don't have belt.
Man,
I will never get belt. I don't want belts. I don't care.
One of my old coaches, a guy named Mark Brewer, he's the head coach over at the University of Grappling over in Utah in the USA. And the guy has won a lot of belts and medals and titles in all kinds of grappling organizations across the U.S. And he had this big box of belts and medals and stuff. You know what he did with it? He took it out to the corner, threw it in the trash. And that's confusing to a lot of people. Like, why would he do that? Why would he take all of these things that he earned and threw them away? Except his philosophy was, that's not me. That's not a representation of what I have earned, because that's inside of me. And I don't need that, that symbol to impress anybody. Yeah. So I thought that was super cool. I mean, I love that. I mean, nothing against people who earned a belt and want to display it in their gym or whatever.
No, my brother,
that's cool.
My brother keep his belt. Like, he have like a few belts, like WMC, but he fought against like strong guys to win his belt. And so he keep his belt, and I'm proud of him. I'm proud of his belt. But like, he can wear his belt and like act as a champion. Like, he fought against strong guys, WMC. Like, that's pretty legit. So I'm proud of this. But otherwise, if like he would have won like a belt and against no one, like small organization, like just hide it. Like, put it home. Like, it can be nice just to look at it sometime, but that's it. Yeah. Like, there is nothing to be proud of.
I don't know too much about your brother, but you mentioned him. He just started fighting for
One FC.
One FC.
Yeah, One
that's
FC.
right.
Just signed up for One FC.
Oh, that's
And
cool, man.
his weight category is extremely hard.
Really?
61.2. There is a lot
Really?
of extremely tough fighter.
61.2. How tall is he? Is he
190. 190. 180.
180. Oh,
He's
man.
pretty tall.
So he's going to be a tall guy
181.
in that weight class.
Yeah.
Man,
So
I fought at 64 kilos a couple of times. Man, that weight cut killed me every time I went down to
it's
64.
pretty hard. But he was fighting 57 before.
Wow.
Yeah, for the K1 Grand Prix, he fought at 57.5 2 times.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really hard. Really hardcore weight cut. 10 kg.
Man, is he like a similar build to you?
Really skinny. More skinny. Way
Okay.
more skinny.
Right.
Like I was before. Like tall and skinny.
Okay.
But I'm taller.
Man, guys who can... Those skinny tall guys in those lightweight classes, that is an interesting situation. Especially if they understand the reach, because they don't always. If they understand the reach, man,
He do any
that's
back punch. Like mostly you can think like, oh, since he's tall, he don't have a lot of power.
yeah.
But actually he back a punch, he can hit hard, like more than most of like 70 or 80 kg guys. Like he hits
Okay.
extremely hard. So that's really interesting, like to see him fight. He hit hard, and he's like, yeah, he's really strong fighter. Like even if he's a bit lazy, like he's too lazy, but yeah, he's pretty lazy.
You can say that he's your brother, man.
Yeah, like I'm the one who can like say this because like I know him. Like he's too lazy. But
He's gonna listen to this and be like, "I'll show you who's lazy."
Yeah, you can
Step
try.
up his game.
So he's too lazy, but even like because he only train when he have to. But when he start to train, he train like for real. Like I took him with me like in Thailand in some hardcore camp, and yeah, he's training like as hell.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's really strong, extremely strong fighter,
Yeah.
and
it's,
a lot of hurt. Like you know, when you're a fighter, if there is one thing that's like no one can give you, it's this. It's the hurt.
Oh yeah.
Like
The
if you
heart,
don't have
man.
this,
Man,
you
it
will never
is
go
so
far.
true. It is so true. Man, I had this student, this guy named Roy Swan, this Chinese guy, and he showed up to my gym a few years ago, and the guy was fat, one of the few fat Chinese guys out there. To my American viewers, a lot of my viewers are from America. America is one of the fattest countries in the world.
Yeah.
Obesity is a major problem. And in China, it's a whole different story. We don't have that type of obesity here in the People's Republic. I mean, there are some fat people, but
More
not
and
to the
more,
extent.
actually.
Yeah, more and more, yeah.
More and more.
Like a lot more now than just a decade ago. But Roy, he was a fat dude, and he came in the gym, and we did this warm-up, just like rotating the arms, basic, simple, dynamic stretches, nothing strenuous. But after a minute of that, he was out of breath, and he could not continue. And I thought, oh man, he's done. He's not coming back. It's too hard for him. But he came back the next day, and he did a little bit more of the warm-up. And he came back the next day and did a little bit more. And he came back the next day until he could finally do the whole warm-up. And then he just kept coming back day after day, every single day, never missed a class. And he showed up for 2 years straight. And he lost all that weight. And, he put on some muscle, he got strong. He competed a bunch of times in boxing, kickboxing, amateur fights. Right now, he ended up with a record of like 12 wins, most wins by knockout. I think he had 1 loss by decision. Did a Jiu-Jitsu tournament, did 2 amateur MMA fights. Phenomenal job. And, I don't even care about the wins because his real win was in life.
Yeah.
And that real win was his heart saying, I will, when everything else said, no, you should quit,
I
quit.
totally respect those people, especially like people who start from nothing, like really like lanky guys or like really obese guys.
Yeah.
Those people have all my respect. For me, I don't respect weak people. Like for me, if you're like buffed and strong, it doesn't mean you're strong.
Yeah.
Like you look strong, but are you really strong? I don't respect weakness because there is people out there, like in everyday life, that they start from nothing. They really start from nothing in everything. For example, there is people that are extremely poor, people who didn't have the chance to get like a proper education, people
Right.
who got sick, and people who got fat. And those people, like, one day they just like woke up and be like, my life is gonna change, and I'm gonna make this change by myself with my own strength. And those people are like strong people. When you get out of your comfort zone for anything, for me, you have my respect, you're strong. When you stay like in your comfort zone and you don't want to, you're weak for me. So I don't respect you. I don't have any respect for a person who just stay in his comfort zone, like he's good at something, and no, I don't want to challenge myself.
Yeah.
So that's why I really respect a lot those people who fight for their goal, who try to do like the best they can, even if they go like from like nothing. They start from nothing, but they build everything by themselves, and this is something that everyone should respect and everyone should like push. Like this is what I think.
It's the story that every coach, every instructor, every teacher wants to tell.
Yeah, like with guys like that came to the gym and like started with like not be able to do anything, in the end like succeed. That's a lot of inspiration for me when I look at those people that like train hard and suffer and like come back again. Like I admire these people. I'm like, yeah.
At the same time, it's so humbling when a guy like Roy would come up to me afterwards and he said, "I have you to thank for this," and I'd be like, I would think like, no, you are the one who did all the work. You were the one. It was your heart that said, "I will." You know? Totally. I just pointed like, go do some push-ups. Get the bag. Yeah. Do this. Here's a technique.
The coach is just like the little push. Like as a coach, you're just like the little push that's start him. Then he can choose. There's a way to go and fight, or to just like look and stop.
Yeah.
Like when I teach to people and I give them instruction, when you teach, you always keep an eye. Even when they think like, oh, he's not looking, you're actually looking. And I see people that as soon as I turn my back, they start to and they breathe and they don't want to train. And then I'm like, yeah. Like if you don't want to train, I'm not gonna beat you. Like I'm not in your body, I'm not in your mind. You know your level, you know what you can achieve or not. If you don't want to push yourself, don't expect a lot of results.
Yeah.
Like you should push yourself. You should be the one that train even without when I'm not looking. You should be training even more than when I'm looking. Like when I'm looking, okay, it's fine. But when I'm not looking, you should train like twice more, because even if I'm not looking, you are looking.
Yeah, there is so much value in pushing yourself with your own initiative. Your own initiative is so valuable. So often I will have people, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, people who can't come to the gym for whatever reason, or don't come to the gym for a while, 2-3 months, and then they come back and say, oh, I've lost everything. I'm not athletic anymore. My cardio is gone. And what I'll ask them is, well, why? So push-ups are free, running's free, burpees are free.
Yeah.
All that stuff is free and it doesn't cost you anything.
Totally. But I can understand that. Like when I got my surgery on my wrist, like we talked about that before actually.
Yeah.
Like, when I got 17, 16, I started to work out a lot, and I hit 19 and I was a beast. Like I was like shredded, 85 kg, like I was looking like V body, like shredded. Like,
yeah, I saw your pictures.
I was like really looking good, and then I got
He's not exaggerating.
Yeah, I got a cyst in my wrist, and I couldn't close my hand, I couldn't punch, even like extending my arms was like triggering me a lot of pain in my wrist.
It wasn't a ganglion cyst, was it?
It's
like
I don't remember
in the wrist right here?
Yeah, just there, like just there, and then it was inside.
Oh.
And I tried to go to the hospital. They took a lot of time to find, and so I had to stop to do my bodyweight workout and Muay Thai. So I continued to run, but I quickly became like really depressed about my situation because I couldn't do anything other than running.
Yeah.
So I stopped. And 1 year passed, and during this year I went back to school. So to finish, I did like 2 years after my graduation. And without me realizing it, 3 years have passed. And one day I just in summer, before I come to China actually, I just went out of the shower, and when I went in front of the mirror, I just stopped, took a few steps back and looked at me, and I was like, that's not me. It's not possible, that's not me.
You saw that contrast.
I saw the contrast between me 3 years before and me now. And I was like, no, that's not me, that's not possible. Wait a few hours and went back to the mirror, and then I was like, yeah, that's me. And I started to cry, and I cried all day long. I went into my room and I was crying, looking at the picture and crying. And I was like, why did I do that? Why? I came from like being like weak to super strong to weak again. And then I went to China and I started to work out like again, and I just decided like, okay, now my street workout team is not there anymore. I'm alone in China. But I have a goal. I could have choose two options. As a way, deny and stay weak and be like, that's fine, one day. Or be like, no, you're weak. Now everything is gone. So you need to work out again from scratch and be strong again. And I choose to work out a lot, put a lot of sacrifice, even like with injuries because of Jiu-Jitsu and stuff. And in the end, now here I am again. I start to get back to a proper level. I still have a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do. Even like if now I'm looking okay, but I really want to get back to my old level when it comes to body control. It's gonna take some time, especially that because I'm training alone. I don't have a lot of people to train with me. But I will reach my goals because I have my mind into it and I want to achieve my goals no matter what. And I will never stop to train again. Like when I injured my shoulder because of Jiu-Jitsu, I got an accident. I continued to train with one arm. I was using elastics, I was using like this kind of stuff, but I was training. Anyway, training. Because when you stop, this is where like the start of the downfall. You don't realize it. Times pass.
Man, there's always a way to modify training.
Yeah.
And if you injure your arm, you've got another one.
There is always another solution.
Hurt your leg, use something else that doesn't hurt that leg.
Always a solution. Like otherwise, you just try to find excuses.
Yeah.
When I look back, I just find excuses, and excuses in the end doesn't pay. You can find excuses or you can find solution. That's it. That's
Indeed.
reality.
So true, man.
But most of people like to hide behind excuses, like I'm sick. Or that's my genetics, or there is always like easy excuses.
Yeah, and these excuses, I mean, they're understandable. A lot of them, for example, myself at age 21, I ended up in such a poor state of health. I ended up in the hospital. I required like 4 major surgeries, and I almost died. And I don't think anybody would have blamed me if I just curled up in a ball and just kind of quit on life, and especially physical culture, because I had to learn how to walk all over again, basically. And I don't think anybody would have blamed me if I didn't become a cage fighter, obviously.
Totally.
But that's not that was not consistent with what I wanted. I remember just feeling like lying in the hospital all those months thinking like, this is a prison that I don't want to be in. I mean, I took my body for granted for the longest time. I took my ability to move and stand up and just breathe normally and get up and walk normally for granted. And I never, ever want to do that again.
Totally.
So, man, if we're making excuses when we have the ability to push forward, now the only person we're robbing is ourselves.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. My mom had cancer too. Like when I was a kid, my mom had cancer and she should have died already, but she survived. And when I look back, I see my mom, like when she found out she had cancer, she started to work a lot. A lot. Like because she wanted to make the most money possible before dying. To try to keep us like out of misery with my dad and the other.
Oh wow.
So
moms are awesome like that.
She fought cancer and she won. So that's why I have the same example. Like she could have been like, oh, why me? Oh God, why? But no, she just like she fought. She did her best, and in the end, like she's still alive. So what? Like no matter what happened, no matter what life threw at you, like if you can fight, do it. Like do your best, because like you only live once, and like no one is gonna do it for you. There is no magic pill. There is no like program with like someone is working out for you, and then you wake up and you're just jacked and you're like in a good situation.
There's no 2-week certification course that is going to turn you into self-defense guru.
There is no 2-week course that's gonna make you like a killing machine in any martial arts, like Krav Maga. No, that doesn't exist. Like this is only hard work, sweat, blood, and that's it. And that's the cold truth. But in the end, when you go through all of that, all the sacrifice, in the end you reach your goal and you will only be proud. And this is something you will be able to share with like your loved one. Like if you have like children, like your children will look up to you because of that. Like your friends will look up to you. Like you will be able to become a source of inspiration for others and be able to give back what people gave to you. Like I'm really thankful for my friends, like of my street workout team, like that pushed me when I started street workout, because I was weak, but they kept like pushing me till I reached like a proper level. And that's something you will be able to give back. In life, you give, like you take, and you have to give back. If you don't give when you can, like you kind of break like a circle. And then like don't like, I'd say that don't
be the weak link in the chain.
Yeah, don't be like the weak link in the chain. Like continue to give when you can, continue to share what you can to everyone and anyone, because like at some point you will need someone to give you to, like you will need it.
It's like the fifth step of happiness right there. The first one, following our base animal instincts, wanting, as soon as our basic needs are met, food, shelter, water, we start to want stuff and things, and that makes us happy to a certain degree, but then that's it. And then we start looking for other things like experiences. Oh, if I have all these experiences, if I do that, if I go there, I'll be happy. And that satisfies us to a degree. And then what's next? Oh, I don't know, self-improvement maybe. We try to like learn a skill, get better in martial arts or whatever it is. And that makes us happy to a degree. But man, you hit the nail on the head right there. Giving back is the next level.
Yeah.
Giving something back.
Happiness is inside of you. Like if you can give back, even if it's small thing. I don't always like think about like money or stuff like that, but just like, a smile, like helping someone like with basic stuff. It will always like, for you sometimes it's a small thing, but for someone else it's gonna be like a life-changing stuff. Like your small thing is the life-changing for someone else. So that's why you don't know how you will impact people's life. Like a small stuff is gonna like change someone's life to some extent. Like sometimes you can't even imagine.
Yeah, sometimes you'll never know in your life.
Yeah, never know.
Having this YouTube channel is interesting because I get a ton of emails and messages from people every day, and every once in a while I'll get an email from a guy who comments on like some video I forgot about because made it like 6 years ago or whatever. Say, I listened to what you said in this video and it changed my life in this really significant way that often has nothing to do with martial arts or whatever. And I'll be like, wow, that's really cool. I had no idea. But man, even the words we speak are enormously powerful, for good or for bad.
Because like my father used to like tell us a lot in the gym. Like again, we have like the small ring of like martial arts where like you step, you fight and stuff, and you have the big ring of life. So using like martial arts and helping people through martial arts, or like with what we say, like because what we say are like powerful words anyway. Like with like a small ring, we can help people improve in like the big ring of their life, where they're gonna encounter like the same problem that we can encounter in the martial arts, for example, like adversity, like like being strict with yourself,
right?
Like all those kind of stuff. You're gonna encounter the same stuff in everyday life. So I can totally understand like what you say when you're telling me that some people get, their life changed because of what you told to them, like, or what you said on your video when you show them like inside the gym. Like those are like life-changing like elements for sure.
Yeah, man, that's a beautiful thing about martial arts. Just like you said, it's or like your father said, it's a microcosm for life.
Exactly.
So many life lessons to be learned in the ring.
Exactly.
like how to not get kicked in the head 7 times each round.
To dodge.
That's an important one to start with.
Yeah, or you can take Krav Maga for 2 weeks and then you can like defeat any striker or any
Anyone.
grappler.
Oh man, that is such a bold claim. You know, if you look at actual statistics in martial arts, like look at the rear naked choke, for example. Roughly 33%, last I checked, 33% of all submissions in the UFC are the rear naked choke. And the success rate, like the number of times it's attempted versus the number of times it's successful, is like 52%. And that is the highest percentage grappling technique, the highest percentage grappling attack in all of martial arts.
Squeeze the neck.
Meaning it only works 52% of the time when the world's best fighters try it. So imagine you take a 2-week course. A 2-week course going from the guy who sits on the couch eating potato chips to this 2-week, I don't know, self-defense, Krav Maga, badassery course. What are your chances of success against somebody who is aggressive and athletic, let alone knows how to fight?
You will get your ass kicked.
Yeah, man. Rhetorical questions have disappointing answers when you answer them out loud, man, but it's the truth. It's the truth.
But even like, I like people who are like teaching other like fancy stuff. Like, first of all, if you like apply some techniques in the street, you will end up in jail for the simple reason that if I poke one of your eye out, or if I like break your neck, like there is no self-defense. That doesn't exist. Like I got assaulted in France when I was 20 by 2 guys, with my brother.
Yeah.
I never told you about that.
Okay, let's talk about
So
that.
I got assaulted by 2 guys in France with my little brother. And I tried to defuse the situation. Unfortunately, the guy were like thinking that my pacific attitude was like a sign of weakness. And so the bigger of the 2 guys tried to punch me. I dodged, I elbow him in the face. He fall down, and I went straight for guillotine on the other guy. I didn't have jiu-jitsu class, but that's what my father told me already. So I went straight for guillotine. So yeah, after like put the guy sleeping, the other guy I sent the elbow to like try to stand up a bit, and my brother like start to beating him. And in the end, the guy got like his eye sockets like broken.
Oh wow.
He got his face like open, and the other guy had almost nothing because I make him sleep. And
So
one day
him
like
out.
that, like we saw on TV, that 2 guys got their ass kicked for no reason on the street, and it was the 2 guys that tried to assault us. So police made a huge case of that, and they came to my place one day. I was in Thailand, and they tried to say that we assaulted them, and
Oh, wow.
even told like there were like people who were there who went to the police station when they see what happened on TV to testimony like no, the 2 other guys attacked those guys. I still got fined 18,000 euro.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 10 years, 10 months in prison if I do anything else for the next 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something about self-defense that nobody ever really talks about. I mean, a few people do, but most people don't.
Most of people don't tell you about that, guys. Like I got attacked by 2 guys, and I did almost nothing. 1 elbow and 1 guillotine. My brother, because my brother was like 16 at the time.
Yeah.
So since it was my brother, like they knew he was like a kid, so they put everything on me. So that's something people are not gonna tell you guys. If you beat someone up in the street, even if you get attacked, mostly you will go to jail or you will have to pay fine. Because if you break someone's bones, or you cut someone's face, like it's not like in manga or like in anime or like in movies. No, they go to hospital, they have checked, they have like trouble, and then you have to pay for it. And when you pay for it, it stings quite a bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So this.
Yeah, from country to country, the self-defense laws are going to vary quite a bit, but ultimately, it's going to come back to you in some way.
Yeah, this is reality. This is the reality of self-defense. If you beat someone, and like they go to the police, you will be in trouble. So I think like if we speak about self-defense, pepper spray is the best stuff ever if you want to protect yourself, because you can't hurt anyone with pepper spray. So
it's painful.
It's painful, but you can run away, and it works against like 2'10" guys who are weighting like 140 kg or like 200 pounds, where Krav Maga or this self-defense stuff are not gonna work that much.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh man.
Like for example, like if I had to fight a guy like Francis Ngannou, or a guy like Overeem, or a guy like Anthony Joshua,
Oh man.
Those guys would probably kill me for real, because I'm only 90 kg. So the only thing I can do is like run or pepper spray.
Yeah, man.
And run.
One of the big problems with the self-defense industry is that they try to address the problem of violence
with violence. Exactly.
Specifically wimpy violence, and or an overkill of violence. So
poking people, like the best I can find is like poking people's eyes. Like, yeah, if someone grab me, I'm gonna poke his eyes. Like those people, like they never think about like, could I really like rip someone's eyes out?
Yeah.
Or could I really like crush someone's balls? Like, because I think about Master Wong, like, yeah, grab the nut and
tear it off.
Like, did you already try to grab someone's nuts with a jean? With
yeah,
like a
over
jean,
the
like,
clothes.
Try to grab like the nuts of someone with a jean.
While you're being
almost,
strangled.
Yeah, it's almost not possible because of the
while they
the
have
fabric.
you in a rear naked choke.
Because of the fabric, that's almost not possible.
Yeah.
I know because I tried already. So, like grabbing the nuts is like this kind of stuff. Like that's fantastic.
And even if you succeed, it's going to give you unpredictable results. I mean, some guys you hit them in the groin and they'll crumple on the floor. Some guys, it won't even phase them that much.
You're gonna beat them off.
Especially if they're high on adrenaline.
Yeah, they're gonna be. Yeah, exactly. There is adrenaline too. Like you can break someone's arm and you can still continue to fight because of adrenaline. You can like there is people they get shot by guns and they still fight till they die because of adrenaline. So a fight is not like an exact science. That's a fact. And people with like self-defense try to make it like an exact science with this action I'm gonna react this way and it's gonna work. Like knife defense is the best.
Ooh.
Like the best example of that. Knife defense.
Knives are scary weapons. People don't realize how scary a weapon they are
Run, take your keys, throw them to the face and run, and that's it. There is no other stuff like that.
And I was playing around with a rubber knife with one of my students yesterday. She had some questions about knife self-defense, and I told her, look, the knife is one of the most deadly weapons. It never runs out of ammunition. You need zero training to use it to a lethal degree. And, you know, you don't have to hit hard or powerful. You just have to nick and slash and cut, and you can do horrible, horrible things to somebody with it. And that thing like every Krav Maga school ever teaches where they're like, block the knife with an upward block and counter strike at the same time. Like, okay. And if they slash your arm and then your throat and all this, because you can flick off, you know, like 3 knife strikes by the time somebody does one of those things. It's absurd. It's absurd how easy they try to make knife fighting seem.
Knife fighting is, I think, one of the most scary stuff. Like I did a lot of security job in France. I almost got stabbed 2 times. I got shot at in front of nightclubs. I had unfortunately, I have a lot of experience with like violence because of where I come from and the job I had to do in my life. So people who are talking about like this kind of stuff don't know anything about what they're talking about. Like this is scary, and this is something like you don't want to deal with. You just want to run, or you're just gonna freeze, and that's it. And there is no like magical like parrying technique that's gonna make you catch the knife or catch the gun or stuff like that. That doesn't work. That's bullshit. That would make you kill guys, and that's reality.
That is the truth. And almost every time I've presented that idea, like on the internet especially, there's always like 5 guys in the comments who will say, well, what if you have to fight him? What if you can't run? What if...
Yeah, if you have to fight, well, you're going to have to fight, but
you're going to get stabbed.
You're going to get stabbed. Like, or like, best case scenario, like if I would give you one advice against a guy who have a knife, it's as a way, find like a weapon who's like long enough to try to keep them off. Or if you have nothing, like the best thing for me would be like a really strong low kick and then run. Like the most like if you know how to send a low kick, like the heaviest low kick ever in your life, and then run. That's it. Don't try to grab a blade, because if you try to grab a blade, you're gonna get cut.
People are slippery, man.
Like, even like, just grab, like if I just get a stick and like you grab it and I pull, like it's hard to keep. So a knife is just gonna slit your hand. Like, self-defense is no joke. Like, for me, self-defense mean know how to fight, like knowing how to fight, and you can learn self-defense using wrestling, BJJ, Muay Thai, boxing. This is like proper self-defense.
Amen to that, man. You remind me a lot of Jack Dempsey, the way he wrote in his book that I keep telling you to read, where he said early on, he said, "I believe that almost every gym out there is teaching self-defense wrong," and he gave this wonderful list of reasons why. But back in his day, self-defense meant you know how to fight, you know how to box, you know how to wrestle, etc.
Exactly.
Today, when I hear the word self-defense, I think of like the stupidest techniques you can imagine. I think of just pure bullshito. That's what comes to my mind when I hear that word. And it's a shame because, you know, there is still a need for it. But at the same time, I think the self-defense community, online, etc., just really needs to chill out about it, because, you know, what are the major causes of death in the world? Is it bad guys jumping out of the shadows?
Exactly.
No, for most people, no. It's heart disease, it's stroke, it's cancer, it's accidents around the home, which are often attributable to loss of balance and things like that. Problems that can largely be addressed with paying attention to your health and fitness, which is one of those things that martial arts helps you protect yourself from immediately.
Exactly. But yeah, but you know, they are like a cult. Like if you speak bad about self-defense, you're a hater, or you don't know shit, or who are you? So they get like extremely aggressive when you speak bad of self-defense. So I don't really speak bad of self-defense. I just invite any like self-defense practitioner to come in the gym and spar, and they never come, mostly. Like I've been like,
because what they do is for the streets, Jowad,
because
not for the gym.
That's why.
Not for your nice, safe, padded gym.
Like I haven't like offered like money to some self-defense instructor, especially like the one who were like telling my students to like, you can defeat everyone who's Krav Maga. I offered this guy like 10,000 RMB and no response, because they, like, people who do self-defense mostly know that it doesn't work.
Because they got everything to lose in that situation.
You have everything to lose. Like, you get your ass kicked, and then like people realize that like it's not real. Like otherwise, all the self-defense like instructor would be killing, like in Valetudo or like in even MMA. You just like take off like the illegal strike, and then like you're killing machine. You're gonna knock everyone in the cage.
Yeah, but man, that guy should be paying you for a lesson. To be honest, I mean, I love the fact that we've been able to get together and spar a couple of times, because I have learned so much from this. Like,
I would be happy to do it again.
I know there are people out there who would they'd say, you know, get a Muay Thai coach from another gym, say, hey, I'd like to spar with you, and they'd be like, I'm not going to do that because he'll show me up and I'll look bad or something like that. And man, that is a disservice. That is a disservice to themselves. Now, we've showed a couple of videos of these sparring sessions where you're kicking my butt, man. You're kicking me in the head and just doing all these really cool things. But I'll tell you why I love this, because I've learned so much from this. And again, I would be doing myself a disservice to say, no, I'm not going to do that because of my pride. Because my goal as a coach is to help fighters win fights, and I want every tool at my disposal, every experience that helps me help them do that.
I totally agree with you. For example, I feel pretty happy when I got my next quiz in Jiu-Jitsu, for example. I feel really happy. When I got paired with like people who are way better than me, and they just like tap me 5 or 10 times in a row, I'm so happy. I'm like, yeah, that's great. I'm going to note that, and I'm going to improve. When again you act like a big fish in a small pond, you'll stop progressing. And then like, you're not going to be able to really like give the best to your students. But again, ego in martial arts is a huge thing. Ego, unfortunately, is like one of the source of like why martial arts are not progressing that much in some extent. Because of ego, because of people who don't want to look bad, who prefer to look okay on the picture, but they don't want to look bad in reality.
Yeah, man,
for me. I love to work, like to spar with people, because again, it's sharing, it's exchanging. When I love to get invited to spar with like the students of some of my friends, because same, we can exchange, and I love to send my friends to spar with like the students of, or with the teacher of some other place. I love it because they can exchange, they can learn, and that's something that it would be really great to have this in Shanghai, like, you know, a community of like striking who are like really close, and with like people going to each other's gym to be able to do some sparring and exchanging.
Wow, that'd be fantastic.
But ego again.
Yes, we've got the egos. Everybody's like, stay on your own side.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't come to my gym. Don't spar with me. If you want to spar with me, you need to pay me 30,000.
Oh yeah, there was a guy who said that to you, wasn't he?
I did.
It's like, pay me to spar with you as much as I would get paid for a professional fight.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to spar with me, you want to fight with me, I'm not afraid, but pay me 30,000 K. That's my price.
Oh man.
Well.
Well, he missed out, man. He missed out. So you're a fantastic sparring partner, and I really appreciated you coming in today.
My pleasure, really.
Yeah.
But we'll do it again, I guess. Like, and then again, like, we have super session in Absolute, or like, I know you have like sparring session too. Yeah. And since I have like a bit of free time, like, I know that we'll do it again, and it will really be my pleasure. Even if I can bring some of my students or the guy like that train with us, like, I know that we have like some nice guy to spar with.
Sounds awesome. Sounds awesome. I look forward to it.
My pleasure again. Like,
all right.
It was really a nice experience.
It's getting cold in this room, man.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's about time to wrap up this podcast. Anything else you'd like to say to the folks at home or the folks on YouTube?
Oh, just like, again, when you start like the martial arts journey, like, you're never alone. Like, when you join a team, when you train with people, like, you should never feel that, you know, alone, because there is people with you, people around you that's gonna help you to reach your goal. Like, if you really put your mind into it, it can be anything, but you will succeed in the end. So don't like give up, stay strong, try to ask questions, try to push yourself in anything you do, and in the end, like, you'll be proud of yourself, you will succeed, and like, you will be able to give back like what you learned during this journey. So again, it's not a sprint, it's a real like marathon in the end.
So true, man. So true.
So stay strong. Again, thanks a lot to everyone who helped me in China to achieve my goals, in France too. And again, thank you guys. Take care.
All right, thanks for watching or listening. Get out there and train, guys.
Os platypus.